Hey, it's Josh Williams here, and welcome to another bonus episode of the One Man Podcast. This week, I have a good buddy of mine, the guy who is responsible for putting me on stage for the very first time, Trevor Thompson. Trevor has performed all over Canada. He's a super funny guy. I have looked up to him ever since I started stand-up. And the episode's interesting today. We talk about sort of different things. I see a lot of my struggles. Trevor and I share a lot of the same struggles, different outcomes, different methods, things like that. So the episode is very interesting. It's actually a longer one, but him and I were having so much fun talking and different subjects matter. Trevor was a guy who signed with Yucks early on in his career, and he talks about that. And we had conversations about gigs, you kind of don't want to do, and, somebody walk in the room. I enjoy talking with Trevor. Trevor's actually incredibly well read. He's got a shitload of knowledge. The guy is a wealth of knowledge. But yeah, you're going to hear all sorts of different stuff. Like we have, it's a fun conversation. It has ups and it has downs. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. We called it, we actually still going when we get close to the end, but we're just having so much fun. The day was getting away from us, so we had to sort of cut it off quick. But I hope you guys enjoy the conversation I had with the very funny comedian Trevor Thompson.
Yeah!
Is that in case you want to record it? Is that
no, that's just Jason on the thing there. Now we have started recording the audio just as of a few seconds ago. I just like it to sound natural, like the conversation is already begun.
So this is how it starts. I'm trying to starts listening. This is how it starts. They're like, hey, I listen to Josh Williams' podcast, and it starts off like, so yeah, when I'm high.
I do a bunch of, that's basically where it started. You're like, yeah, I do that on stage too, unless I'm high or whatever. Yeah. That's basically what
when I'm high, it gets worse. I mean, sometimes I'm high on stage.
Are you comfortable? I can always edit into this part.
Yeah, I don't care. Whatever. It's legal. Comic admits to drug abuse on stage. No, it is. I mean, I know how not to. I wouldn't do it for a long set, but if I'm just doing 6 minutes, sometimes like a bar, never at Absolute Comedy. But
most guys got their stars being high at Absolute.
Yeah, I know.
The audience is high.
No, I've done sets high, like pros, like at clubs too, and 90% of the time it goes well. I mean, I can't think of a set I've done where I've been high. This is a weird way to start off, but drugs and well,
for fuck's sakes, I mean, the amount of comics that smoke pot, and I can't. I wish I could. Yeah. I smoke pot and I get way too anxious.
Well, I feel like it's better than, as long as you're not too fucked up, right? Like, it's better than being drunk on stage, because drunk just makes you sloppy and slur your words. And like, I've never really been truly drunk on stage, but I've been like not sober, where like you think it's, then you'll listen to a recording of yourself. Not that I have enough recordings of myself. I really need to start doing more of that.
I love you got like a little cliff notes and everything. You're like,
what this is going to turn into is just a litany of, like, a laundry list of me like itemizing all the reasons why I'm not more successful. Well, I should record myself more, and I need to apply more to festivals, and really I don't have any web presence, and nobody knows it. Yeah. So anyway, welcome everyone. Welcome to Josh Williams' podcast with special guest whiner Trevor Thompson.
He's not a whiner. I've wanted to have you on for a long time, just because I do have a tremendous amount of respect. I think you're incredibly funny.
Thanks.
Something that people who've only seen you on stage may not know, but you're incredibly informed.
Yeah.
I don't even know if that's not even the right word, because you have a ton of knowledge of trivia and...
Yeah, I got lots of useless information. I'm good at trivia. The government job, I had lots of free time in my hands.
Yeah, people respect the internet, and all it is just use. I'm
a news junkie, like, much to my detriment right now. Like, I can't stay off Twitter, and like, even with everything that's happening in the world right now. So yeah, I guess I'm finger quote informed. Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, you'd crush on a game show.
Depending upon the game show. Yeah.
Which ones? Top 3 that you think you'd dominate in?
I mean, I wouldn't dominate at Jeopardy. I'm good. Like, when it comes to trivia and that kind of stuff, like, I've played on a pub trivia team, although I haven't been playing very much the last while. And like, I'm good at trivia. Like, I am good at it. I know what I'm good at, but I'm not. It's like comedy, right? Like, I'm good at comedy, but there's always somebody better, right? It's like the famous Homer Simpson line. No matter how good you are at something, there's about 1 million people that are better. Like, I'm good at trivia, but I'm not good enough to win at Jeopardy. Like I've never tried to get on it, but I wouldn't. Like I'm not at that level. Like
okay. But so like you said, the Homer Simpson.
I would do well at a game show. I don't know.
Do you think Wheel of Fortune? Because that's not so much trivia as it is just
that
word.
doesn't take any skill, really.
I can't figure them all out. But then there's like types of puzzles where it's like before and after, so you have to know how that's set up for it to.
I don't really know much about game. I don't know because most game shows don't really take skill per se, right? It's a lot of luck. I don't know.
Price is Right is a fun one to watch, but even like as a kid, I remember products that I would buy on the show, and I go, "That's not how much they cost." But you're not doing the U.S. to Canadian conversion.
I just watched a documentary on Netflix a couple months ago about a guy that was so good at memorizing prices, like he had a math brain. I don't know if he was like on the spectrum or something, but. He was so good at memorizing and fixated on prices, and he would memorize how much things cost depending upon model and make of like couches and cars and stuff. And he basically was, I guess, more or less like banned from the show because he kept winning. Like he would sit in the crowd and he would like give advice like to people.
Oh, okay. It's not like he was because they don't have returning champions.
Well, no. But then apparently, if you've been on it, you can't be on it again. But then they lifted that rule, so he was on it again. And I don't know. It's really.
It makes you wonder too.
I don't know how that ties into like what we were talking about. I just watched a documentary about The Price is Right. Yeah,
but who gives a shit? We're just content. That's all
content.
Anybody cares about is content.
But I mean, nobody wants to listen to a 2-hour-long podcast.
Sure, they do.
Do they really?
I'm surprised. I didn't think they'd want to listen to anything I had to say. But
people listen for 2 hours straight. Yeah.
Well, not.
I mean, I can go on for 2 hours.
You're welcome to. Here's the thing, though. Nobody listens for 2 hours straight.
Manifesto right now.
Nobody listens for 2 hours straight. They'll listen to 30 minutes on the way to work. They'll listen to the next 30 minutes later. Maybe 20 minutes while they'll just resume where they left off. It's not so much that they sit for 2 hours straight and listen. Right. Some people do, right? Like people like Kamar, who is he's had an episode on the show, but Kamar all day long he's just moving boxes and just filling up paperwork. But he's got the podcast.
Yeah, I know he listens to podcasts all day.
Yeah.
Kamar's been on your show?
Yeah, he had an episode a while back. After he did what do you call it? Not a competition and not a contest. It's a fucking festival. He did a festival in Kingston. So I had him on after that.
Oh, Ryan Denise. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I had Kamar on there. But yeah, I mean, he's somebody who listens to podcasts all the time. I got buddies who are like landscapers and they're like all day long. I got my AirPods in. I'm listening to podcasts.
Okay.
That or audiobooks, right? Yeah, people.
Okay. Well, hey, hello.
So there's a fun, like, I don't know. I think with the game show stuff, even if you know the prices, it's like, isn't there different prices everywhere? If you go to Walmart and you look at a loaf of bread.
No, but that's the thing. This guy, there was like standardized pricing for like, because they kept using the same products, and he would watch the show enough. He basically compiled a database where he was able to figure out, like, he kept like a spreadsheet of like, this costs this much, this with this, the couch with the ottoman costs this much, the deluxe version of this,
I thought he just knew what like.
No, he did the work. He did the work, to determine. Anyway, I can't remember the guy's name or even what the documentary is called.
But you watched it.
But I watched it because I don't know why I watched it. Honestly, it was one of those like Netflix paralysis where you're overwhelmed with like there's so many. It's kind of like the situation I'm in right now in my life where like I actually have some free time in my hands. And I got so much stuff I should be doing and need to be doing, but instead of like trying to focus on one thing, I get overwhelmed. And I just lie in my bed and look at Twitter for an hour. And get mad about the world. It's kind of like this, mental health situation I'm in right now.
Right.
It's good. I'm getting out of the house. I'm talking to another human.
You're helping me right now with the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I'm not doing anything.
I know.
I'm like, I should. You know what? Yeah. I'll record a podcast. I'll create some content. So
we're
both in the exact same.
This is mutually beneficial podcasting, reciprocal agreement.
It's a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah. I'm Trevor, by the way.
Yeah, Trevor Thompson, guys. Trevor, I know. I still don't know if you hate it when I say this or if you just pretend to dislike it, because I know I've said it a few times before you've come up, but it's not about me. It's about you. Mm-hmm. But you are the first person who ever put me on stage.
Yeah, no, I don't hate it. I don't know. Yeah, you and Matt Carter, Dave Atkinson, it was, I think... the
Laurier show. That was the first show.
The Royal Oak and Laurier in the basement.
Yeah, my friends, I've told this story before in the podcast, probably the first or second episode, but my friends and I were going to see a lot of shows at the clubs. Mm-hmm. And after we would see the show of the weekend and go, well, we've already seen the show this week. We go to the other club, check out the other show. And then we started to learn that Wednesdays are the amateur nights at both clubs. So we would go to that because it's a different show, right? Different comics, different content. Yeah. And we saw you at a lot of them. And you were like, you and Dom Perret were like the two best comics that we would see in like the up and coming scene. Do you know what I mean? You were already established. You were hosting and things like that. But I don't want to tell the story in that regard because now we've jumped ahead in your timeline. But I just remember you recognized our group of friends and okay, I've seen you guys at a lot. What's the
2000?
Are you thinking about starting? And at the time, I had no idea why you would ask that. Having been in comedy long enough, I go, yeah. Now, if you see people around a lot, it's because they're interested in doing
I picked up on that. I could pick up on that right away because like it was kind of like that's how people would, when you want to get into comedy, that's like when I first wanted to get into it, that's what I was told, right? I said, come down to the club, watch a show first. Because I didn't know any better. When I phoned up, I was like, hey, I want to do Wednesday. Like, okay, you got to come down to the club and watch. Yeah. So I did that. So I realized that when I'd see people around the clubs all the time, I feel like that's like, okay, somebody in this group wants to get into it. And I do everything in my power to like discourage them.
You should have discouraged me.
No,
I had no interest in doing
into this.
Yeah, I tell people that's what I tell people all the time. I go, you don't get to just do it once. You know what I mean? Maybe if you bomb horribly, but if you do the slightest bit well, you're like, wow, that felt great. I want to do that again. I had no interest in doing it at the time. Really? It was only me.
It's because I planted.
No.
Am I to blame?
I'd love to give you the credit for it, buddy. Everything that's happened to me since every reason that I can't get a day job now because of this goddamn. I can relate. I realized through this podcast at the time
I was on a Thursday.
I was going through some medical stuff at the time. I was really worried. I thought my time was up. And I didn't even realize it at the time, but I was unhappy with my life. I was worried. I hated my job, and I was just going to stand up to feel good. I'm still unhappy
with my life.
Oh, dude, so am I. But I don't think it's over right now, which is almost maybe worse. No, at the time, I was like in stand up because I liked the escape. I liked the laughing. I've always been a fan of stand up. But it wasn't until you asked us that my friends, because my friends every time they came with me, they were like, "You should do this. You should." I'm like, I don't. I go, you guys think that. I'm funny to you because you know me. Or if someone says something and I can play off it, sure, maybe I'm funny. But walk out there blank and just, no.
There's definitely a difference between funny and stage funny, for sure.
Yeah.
Like I've actually said, though, going back to what you said, like I've said on stage recently, like this is the only time I'm actually happy during the day.
Yeah, when
I'm up on stage and like it's going well and I'm like in my element, I'm like I actually feel comfortable. Like this is where I know what I'm doing.
Do you feel the most you on stage?
Yeah.
That's the same for me. Like people are like, oh, you get up there and you put on this character. Go, no, the character is off stage.
It's a slightly embellished version of, who I really am, I guess.
Yeah, but do you feel like I don't know? When I'm on stage and I'm just sort of being silly and goofy, it's almost like in my regular life I have to tone my shit down because people take it the wrong way. Whereas when I'm on stage, it's almost like, oh, he's just kind of kidding and being silly. I'm like, yeah, that's me all the time.
I know that's the thing. I find that, people, if they don't know you're a comedian, or it's not like I go around saying to everyone who is a comedian, I'm a comedian, but when they find out you're a comedian, they treat you differently, and they kind of like they're expecting you to always just be the funny guy, and they react like you're it gets annoying sometimes when like they react like you're a zoo exhibit or something. Like, you do comedy? Wow, how do you do that? Oh my God, I would never do that. I don't know how you do that. Look, everyone, Bernice, come look, this guy's a comedian. Tell us something funny. Would you shut the fuck up?
Can I just be
This is why I didn't say anything about it. Oh, they tell you comedy. You do do your little routines first now.
Yeah, do your sketch.
Would you shut the fuck up? No, it just, they react differently. It's like we're like some kind of novelty, right?
Yeah. I tell people that the comedy, the jokes and stuff are usually for myself. They're like the exhaust fumes of all the shit I'm processing in my head. It's like I'm not up here going, like this is funny and that's.
But you're really good at like just at conversating, right? I mean, like that's you. So much of your act is crowd work, right? Like you're really good at that kind of stuff of like just talking to someone and like them, like that kind of like getting them to react with you. It's more like it's like you're doing not a podcast on stage, but that's
well, for me it's like the conversation thing, and I try not to be a hack about it because like my rule personally, there's only one question I ever ask that's breaking this rule. Yeah. But like the rule is I don't ask any questions that I wouldn't ask at like a dinner party or a house party, right? Except for, hey, is anyone celebrating anything tonight? That's the only rule. But in terms of like, hey, do we have any Leafs fans here? Hey, anyone from out of town? Like you'd never sit down at a table and ask, hey, anyone here from out of town? Like it's not natural. So I treat it like a conversation.
Yeah.
If I'm talking
Who
with
came
friends,
the farthest away to
Right.
be at this dinner party?
yeah, anyone seen the movie? Like,
And boy, I hate the Leafs.
yeah, right? I don't know, because it seems unnatural.
When I started doing comedy, it was kind of like right at the height of the Ottawa-Toronto Battle of Ontario, like we're like Leafs and Sens in the playoffs, and like you back then, you could get a standing ovation, you get an applause break just by going on stage and saying Leafs suck.
Yeah.
Like it was so easy. It was so easy. It's like to a lesser extent still a little bit like that, but it was worse.
Well, it's like or be like, Trump's an idiot. Yeah, we agree.
Well, yeah, I know.
Like,
I
it's just
remember
any kind of-
I think it was my first ever show.
Well, can I stop you there? Because I want to go back. If you don't mind my asking.
Yes.
Just that there won't be another opportunity.
First ever.
Who were you before you started stand-up? What were you doing before you started comedy?
Well, I was a public servant. Stand-up was something I always had aspirations of doing. It's something I was kind of, always interested in doing. I never really mustered up the courage to do though till I was about, 30, early 30s, and I'm 44 now. But
was there a catalyst for it? Like, did something happen? You're like, I got to do this, or did you go to a show and you just go?
No. I never really went to stand up before. Like, it's not like I was a big fan of comedy per se. Mm-hmm. Honestly, compared to a lot of comedians, I'm still not really a big fan of comedy. Like, I like what I like, but I don't know. I don't laugh out loud watching comedy much or movies. I'm a tough laugh. Like, I'm not like somebody who just loves stand up, and like I wouldn't go to Just for Laughs unless I was booked to do it.
I've never been.
I'm made like people like good comics paying money to go for Just for Laughs when you're not booked on it. I don't understand that. It's like I would just be seething with bitterness the entire time. Like I should fucking be here, but that's just me being Trevor, right?
Yeah, I was going to say that's the only laugh of yours. The kind of most of the time you just smile really big. Like your laugh is a big smile.
Yeah, I started. Yeah, it's something I wanted to do, but it's not something that I really had any set plan or anything. In my 20s, I did like a satirical website with my buddy that was kind of like a Canadian bad ripoff of The Onion. It was sort of like the Beaverton before the Beaverton, not nearly as like professional or like what. It was just me and one other guy.
Yeah,
it got a bit of a following, but then like I guess I was still doing it when I started stand up, and it was kind of like, well, I'm doing this. This is the next level of, something I wanted to try. Is like there was no big motivation or catalyst. It was more just accumulation of like me being, I guess, frustrated with myself and that I hadn't tried it yet. So like, okay, it's time to shit or get off the pot. Let's try it. So I finally took the plunge and signed up for a Wednesday at Yucks, and
had you seen the shows there first? Like, knew what you were getting into?
Well, I went to watch a couple of Wednesdays as like Howard told me to do. It was different back then. I know I sound like an old man, but like I started right around when Absolute opened. But like when I started comedy, the first year I did comedy, I think I did 13 shows total. Like there was nothing here. Mm-hmm. There were no open mics. There was nothing going on. There was Wednesday at Yucks, Wednesday at Absolute. That was it. If you could even get on. Now there's so much more going on. Somebody's been doing it 6 months, and they got a podcast and a Facebook fan page, and they're like, they like think they can do like half an hour, like it's just, man, what?
There's not boldness, a lot of self-awareness in this scene.
The confidence, the boldness, the complete lack of self-awareness is like the first year and a half I did comedy, I didn't talk to anybody, and this is just me being the introvert that I am, I guess, or sort of an introvert. Like I don't like talking to strangers generally. I'm not talking to a group of people doesn't faze me as much as one-on-one.
Right.
Like, I mean, like it's different. Like I know you, right? But like, I mean, I don't like talking to people I don't know. I didn't ingratiate myself with, like, I would show up, do my 6 minutes, eat shit most of the time.
Really?
And then, well, I mean, there were good and bad. It was hit and miss, right? But I was brand new. Also, Jason was the first person actually to tell me, because nobody told me this.
Right.
I would do 6 new minutes every month, like every Wednesday night. I would be like, oh, I don't want to do the same 6 minutes. I'll get bored. So I'd write 6 new minutes. A lot of the time it was just topical. Like I was trying to do a fucking Jay Leno monologue. Oh, here's something funny from the news, you know. But like, and then
you see this? You hit with this?
or a variation of, boy, the Leafs sure do suck, right? and then I would do 60 minutes. It was Jason that took me aside when his first scolding of me. And he was like,
everyone remembers their first time with
Jason Lawrence scolding. He was like, oh, look, here's what I can't have you do. What you gotta do? What are you doing? You gotta do 6. You gotta hone that 6 minutes. You can't do 6. I can't have you do 6 new minutes. What the fuck are you doing? But then it was him that told me that, right? It was like, okay, yeah, I guess that makes sense. So like from that point, I would try to hone, okay, 6 minutes, 8 minutes, whatever. Finally, after a year and a half, Howard, the owner of Yucks, was like, I started to get okay at it and get some laughs, and he took me aside. He's like, okay, well, yeah, I think you're ready to do. That was the big reward back then. The big promotion at Yucks was 2 Wednesdays a month.
Ooh.
Now you can't. Now
I guess there was enough
now there's
people that
800
you could do that.
fucking comedians in Ottawa. There are too many comedians in Ottawa. Like anyway, but that, I mean, not to stop anyone's creative vision or anything, but like This is something I can talk about later, but the whole like antipathy between Yucks and Absolute and like and I mean it's Yucks generated, but it's like it's like it's so stupid because Ottawa is a big enough and affluent enough city that it can easily support 2 comedy clubs. It can support 3 fucking comedy clubs. It is supporting 2
comedy clubs right now.
I know, but it's like this whole like tribalism, like you're one team or the other, and if you work here, you can't work there, and
well,
anyway.
I've watched I've only been doing it for 10 years, and I've watched 10 fucking years, eh? It's gone quick. But I've watched Jason say, "Oh, well, I don't agree with that," blah blah, and now he's exactly the same thing.
Oh yeah, no, I know.
Like
like
I said, everything that you set out to not do or whatever, like you're completely doing right now.
He's worse than Howard now when it comes to like open mics and shit. Like, you do my club, you can't play somewhere. Like Howard doesn't give a shit about that stuff.
Well, Jason's completely quit comedy. Hasn't done comedy in like 4 years. And I think, my issue with Jay, and I don't give it, he doesn't listen to the podcast, but even still.
What the fuck's a podcast?
I've said this to his face. Yeah,
what are you doing?
Nobody's going to fucking listen to it. Nobody knows what it is.
Nobody's a fucking
like,
podcast.
He's a sponsor, and yet he'll shit on it. It's like, yeah, you should probably run. But
Absolute Comedy, proud sponsors of this
exactly.
shitty podcast.
Right. Ouch. But
no, I'm not.
Of what he's saying.
I'm paraphrasing what he would say.
Right.
No.
No. So it's funny because Jay, the way he looks at everything is, when I first started, I couldn't get more than 1 time a month.
Yeah,
so you should practice in your, in your mirror and have everything ready. And I go, yeah, but just because that was the way it was for you, it's almost like saying, well, when I was a kid, I couldn't get a polio vaccination. Yeah. Why should you? It's like, I don't know, because we have an opportunity to grow and stuff.
Or like in the U.S. right now, to like use like Bernie's talking about, like I'm a big Bernie guy, and like Bernie's talking about like an AOC, and these people are talking about debt relief and eliminating student debt and free college and all these like seemingly pie in the sky ideas, and like these old heads are all like, "Whoa, that's great! Yo, I had to pay my student debt. I had to be miserable, so they should be miserable too." It's like that same mentality. Well, like back then things were shit. Yeah. So now
and it's like
they
envy and jealousy and so earlier when you were saying about the whole like there's always 1,000 people who've done it better or whatever, like The Simpsons. There's a quote that I really like, which is just essentially, it says comparison is the death of happiness. Because as soon as you start to like, it doesn't even matter if you're the best, because there's always going to be somebody who did it faster, who did it younger, who did it more efficiently.
Oh, like, I know, and it's like I shouldn't get caught up in that. I definitely get too.
But that's those people going, well, we had to. It's like, well. Is there a dog in here?
No, there's a cat. Oh, there's a dog. Yeah, Al and Carly are coming in.
I just saw a fucking. I just saw a tail go by the table.
No,
I'm like, I think I'm having a stroke.
I fell on my leg. Hey, hi, Al. Hey.
So yeah, I think that there's a lot of those people on the. My mother does it too. Well, we didn't have that. It's like, well, then, so what? Should everybody continue? Like, isn't the whole idea that you want the better things for the future generations and things like that? Like, if you can do it better, why are you?
It's frustrating, but like,
that's the thing. The unhappy people are going to complain that they didn't have it that way, and why should someone else? That's what I was saying.
It's a
right?
whole like, but even like social media in general. This is
Right.
where like I just need to like get off Instagram. And
Well,
Facebook
successful
and Twitter
people-
because like I get up in the morning and be like, oh, look at all these people. You know, it's like fuck. Why the fuck?
I love that you have two
especially
hands right now. It's like you had two
right
phones
now
going.
two phones. Like it's like it's JFL season, which is peak like Trevor bitterness season for sure. Because I see shit where like I can't believe that fucking guy got fucked. You know,
Right.
I haven't even showcased for Just for Laughs. I showcased for them last year.
Yeah.
The
They
Ottawa.
didn't do one in Ottawa this year.
No, they didn't do one in Ottawa.
Right.
I did the Ottawa one last year, and I killed, and everybody else on the show bombed. But whatever, you know, not that means anything.
Right.
I get it. Like I'm
Well,
in my 40s.
They also pick people like you can have a showcase where
I know, they
did well,
book- they
and then
book-
they just pick someone out of Toronto.
I mean, it's like anything, right? They book to cast, right? Like they're
Right.
like we need this, we need this, we need And
well, I did a podcast with Zoe. It was almost 3 hours long, and she said that every year they have a different mandate. So sometimes they don't even get the mandate until after the showcases.
their
or whatever.
mandate this year to completely ignore the nation's capital and like probably the third best comedy market in Canada. Yeah,
Right.
was that the mandate?
Maybe.
Or top 5 anyway.
Right.
I mean, not to get all Mr. Ottawa here, but like
No,
after
I-
Toronto, Vancouver,
We're
we're like Calgary and Edmonton maybe, but that's
I would say
the
that
scene here is better in
per
Montreal. It's
capita,
way fucking better in Montreal.
per capita, we have the best. And I would say
Well,
that probably you don't think so. If
I
you
guess,
took- if you took,
Well,
like-
I mean, because but
look
I mean,
at Toronto.
Yeah, but Toronto, it attracts
but if you
everybody.
narrow
yeah.
it down, I honestly
Oh,
think
dude.
like
we could do an hour on Toronto. Man.
yeah, I'm just saying that overall, like I'm not saying there isn't talent there, but yeah, you look at Montreal where there's
saturation.
that many
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
you'd think that like, can you give me your 10 best up and comers, and you're like, really? Like I guarantee the bottom 50% of that show is
Bad.
pretty rough. But it's I don't know. I mean, I get you on that. I've also been like more paying attention to the people who are like, you know what? If you want to do something, don't wait for like. I don't know if you have an opportunity, but I would listen to the interview I did with Trent McClellan. That was one of the best,
Well, yeah.
most inspiring.
I don't know that guy at all.
Biggest sweetheart.
Yeah.
Amazing human being, always positive. He's incredibly funny. He's
gotta stop doing that.
It's all good. It happens to everybody initially. He's one of the funniest offstage people I've ever met. He's always he's not always on, but he's just one of those things where right at the right time he's got the
quick.
right just. I love that guy, and he has a great way of looking at things too. Like he's one of those guys who just talks about how comedy clubs and festivals is like they're all just a business model. Do you know what I mean? Like you have a product to sell, and you can go through the store, you can do direct
Oh yeah,
consumer.
no,
and-
the business side of this business I've been terrible at. Like I've
He
I
talks
need
about
to
guys
be
who
better
are
at that.
headliners who are just like, and he's like, well, if you don't like what the club's paying you, then go rent a theater. Like, assume the risk yourself. If you think that you can fill a theater and you deserve more money, then take the risk. But if you're going to let someone else take the risk, then you got to take what they're paying because you're an employee of theirs then versus doing it yourself.
Sure, it's easier when you've been on this hour is 22 minutes.
No, he was doing it for years
Oh,
before.
really?
Yeah,
okay.
Trent's-
Not to. Yeah. Okay.
You're
I don't know.
absolutely
I
right.
don't know the guy.
No, you're absolutely
I mean, I know
right.
who he is, but I don't know him.
But he had an opportunity. He
never
was
worked
working with
with
guys
him.
like Jerry D opening for them, like out
Right,
west,
sure.
and he was doing theater stuff. And he was just saying to me like he would watch Jerry.
I don't
like,
have that hustle. That's a problem. I don't. I need to have it, but I don't.
I don't.
I sit and I bitch about how like things are better, but do I do much to make it better?
Well,
Like,
that's-
no. I'd rather just be miserable and stew. And,
That's one of my favorite parts of the podcast that we did with him. He talks about all these comics. He's like, who are and talented. He goes, there's no question these guys are not that they're talented.
Yeah.
He goes, but everybody's like, I want to be a great comedian. I want to be a great comedian. And he's like, but they're up till 2:00 in the morning and they're drinking and then they're playing video games all day. And he said that one of his favorite quotes is, he quoted the gentleman, I don't remember the name, but he was saying, show me where you spend your time and your money and I'll tell you what your priorities are. He's like, so all these guys saying, I want to be a comic. He's like, but all you're doing is drinking. You're spending your money on video games and that. Spending
because
all
that's the
time. That's
appeal
your
of being a
priority.
comic that they and
You don't
I'm
have to do
guilty
anything.
of that. But like that's the Bill Hicks old mentality. Like I only have to work an hour a day, and this is all I have
Right.
to do. And
he was saying working with guys like Jerry D, who
Who's got
he's like,
hustle and
well, he's saying we're
business
driving to a
mind.
gig and he's on his laptop in
Yeah.
the car writing an episode of Mr. D,
Yeah.
and he goes home after the gig.
Yeah,
he doesn't
treat it like it's a job.
Yeah.
For sure.
I read a book recently called The Happiness Equation, and have you read it?
No, I haven't.
Probably. I haven't
Not-
read a ton of these things,
Not a
but
self-help book guy, really, or whatever.
I wasn't. I'm like, that's probably my third one.
Mm-hmm.
But I found The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck was okay. I didn't
Yeah.
dislike it. I found it okay. I found a lot of them when you hear things and that, they're like, okay, they're like a BuzzFeed video in a 200-page book.
Okay.
Right? Like a little motivational Tony Robbins shot in the arm, but then you're like, it fades real quick. The happiness equation was really good because it actually gives you like tools and things like that. And now I've completely lost where I was going with that. But there's a lot of, I'm sure I'll figure it out at some point. Yeah, totally gone. But they talk about just, doing the work. He talked about, this is where it was Jerry Seinfeld. He actually brings up Jerry Seinfeld's work ethic and that in the sense that Jerry Seinfeld, one of the things that he does is he has a giant wall calendar with 365 days on the calendar. Yeah. And one of the things that he does is just every day that he writes. Yeah. No, he just puts a red X on the calendar on the date that he wrote. Yeah. So he's like every day he puts a red X on the days that he writes.
Famous. Well, because there's a quote in Comedian in the documentary. I'm sure you've seen it multiple times, right? Where he's like doing the analogy of like watching the construction workers and like, hey, like that's their job. That's what they're doing. Like, this is your job. You're supposed to be writing jokes, right? Like, no, I get it. I that hustle for sure.
Well, even just the material generation is like, even if you write every day, 99% of or 98% of what you write is going to be garbage. So it's like, but at least you're making 2% at the end of the day.
That's what I save for the novel. The shitty novel.
But I find you to be you create a lot of material.
Yeah.
Like you're not one of those guys who does the same 6 minutes. Like there's I consider myself very fortunate.
If I'm doing a weekend or just or something, or like 3-4 nights in a row where I'm doing 10 minutes or 15 minutes, there'll be some overlap, but I can't even doing the same set in order 3 nights in a row drives me fucking crazy. I'm like, I hate. Yeah. It's more also just for like, and this is ego, right? But like other people on the show, I want to show them, hey, I've got more than this 10 minutes, just so you know, right? Like I don't have just 10 minutes. Yeah.
That took me a long time to come out from under.
Yeah.
Because I used to, and I felt like the entire community disliked me when I started because I came from like a really hard sales background, when I first started.
I remember.
And I wanted to, like, when I came out, I was one of those people who was I need to make a fan page.
I'm not begrudging. I mean, it's great, like that you did that. I remember.
But I remember feeling like, every time I do the same set, I'm the only people who I have to look in the eye night after night are the other comics in the back of the room. So I felt like, I better do shit differently.
You get in that trap though. I've done it, right? Where like you're doing a show where it's like it's like you want to try new stuff, and then it's like, but there's somebody I want to impress. There's the owners here, or the crowds. It's not a good show. I better bring my A material to get the crowd going. Yeah, for sure. You get in that trap, right?
Well, we're one of the things that we're both really lucky. It's the talent is of course part of it, but just in terms of a greater appreciation, like there's people who are not unfunny, but they've been doing it as long as we have, and they still don't get off of the amateur nights and the Wednesdays. Like they were so inconsistent for so long that they've almost solidified themselves in the views of the bookers and the club owners that they're just Wednesday night comic.
But I mean, if they're not funny. That's the problem. They're not. It might be funny compared to like Joe Smith, like the average guy, but like they're not funny as stand-up comedians.
But I don't think they're turning any heads from the owners if they have a good set.
For that long, and you can't still get off Wednesdays.
Yeah. There's some that are outright not funny.
There are some people. I mean, I don't mention names, obviously, but I'm just like, there are people like I'm like, what are you getting out of this? Why are you still?
Yeah.
Like, I'm good at this, and I hate it half the time.
Yeah.
You know?
But that's something that goes back to what we were talking about before about the self-awareness.
Yeah.
Is that good comics are self-aware. So when we come off the stage, I don't mean to say this, pretentiously or anything, but we're artists in a sense. It is art. I don't. Yeah. But a good artist doesn't look at their work and go, wow, that's great. A good artist, and I tell this, all the time, is that's the curse of being an artist, because if you're trying to grow, right, the old saying, safe is dead. So as soon as you go, I'm good, you're done. Yeah. It's the fact that we're not satisfied. Exactly. Yeah. The fact that we're not satisfied is where we can keep growing it.
I used to be notorious for, and like, I mean, maybe I still am, I don't know, for like, when even like I do well and I get off stage, and
I've never seen you happy with
people be like, well, what is like, yeah, but there was that one thing I did,
Right.
and it didn't. Like, I'll find the one part where I'm like, yeah, but I could have done that differently. Or I didn't get a pop on that like I wanted to.
But that's not, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It might deflate the person who's trying to compliment you at the time, but that right there is what tells me I still have something. Because as soon as you go, I fucking high fives, every set I do, I come off and I'm unhappy with something.
That's just me being insufferable too, I suppose, because like when somebody says something like that to you, you're supposed to just be like, oh, thanks. It's not like, actually, I did this thing.
If somebody wants to compliment me like 24 hours later. Or 12. Give me at least till the next day. Because,
but that's
because
like
you're still in the art
club,
form
that's
part.
like, even like, in Toronto, you get all the time, even you do a set and it's like they come up to you, a good set, and it's like it's a pleasantry. It's like a perfunctory. It's a perfunctory acknowledgement. Hey, good set. Even if you eat shit, good set. Like, what show are you watching? What do you mean good set?
I think it's a tough thing too, because we're all trying to be supportive of each other and shit like that too. I just find that, but coming off and having something you're unhappy with means that you're still in the right mind frame, versus the guys, like you said, the ones who do the Wednesdays, who can't get off Wednesdays, walking around telling everybody about how they crushed.
Oh, God,
do you know what I mean? Or whatever.
Dude, dude. That's another problem I have with a lot of.
But that's the lack of self-awareness.
Yeah, like the definition of killing and crushing that some of like the new comics have, where it's like I'll hear like, oh yeah, I crushed, and then I'll be
you
like,
mean the five comics laugh for you?
Shows that I'm at where they'll say that. And I'm not gonna challenge them on it, but I'm just like, what show were you fucking watching? That is not crushing. It's not bombing, but it's like anything that's not bombing is crushing. I guess I don't know.
It's binary. It's either crushed or bombed.
There's 1-0. Yeah,
there's a lot of other shit.
There's a lot of middle ground, right? Like, So anyway, I started then and. Got good enough at it, I guess, that I signed with Yucks. And
how long was that? Like, how long since when you started to signing with Yucks?
Actually, it wasn't that long. Like, it took me like a year and a half before I got anything, like even like any paid show. My very first paid show ever was actually at Absolute, which might surprise people because I'm still seen as a Yucks guy, even though I'm not on the Yucks roster anymore. But everyone still sees me as a Yucks guy, right? Because I have my own show there. Remember, I guess. I don't know.
Trevor's Pad Sundays. Yeah, is it every Sunday?
First Sunday of every month.
First Sunday of every month.
Yeah. Woo!
I want to see you happy. I swear, before I die.
I'm capable of. You caught me at a weird time in my whole comedy. I don't know, transitional phase where like I don't really know where to go next. From the time I started, the time I signed it was like a couple of years. Like, it wasn't long after I got off, like, I got 2 Wednesdays a month to like, oh, now you want to sign with us. And I guess back then it was probably also because it was just a numbers game. Like, I think they needed people, right? And to me, in hindsight, like, I don't know. It's like signing with Yucks if you're living in Ottawa just doesn't make sense. Because, like, it's like if you're in Toronto and they can offer you, like, all these clubs, which is always changing in terms of how many clubs there are. But like here, it's like, what do you get out of it? Right. You can't work the other club, but you have to. So anyway, I did it because like I wasn't really getting anything in Absolute, So I was like, okay, it makes sense, right? Like people do it also because of like a problem with the whole Yucks roster. One of many is like there's just way too many fucking people on it. Right. Way too many people, and they don't. Instead of like being like adults about it. And just, if you're not in their plans or whatever, like of taking the mature decision of like, okay, well, you're just not in our plans anymore, so go your own way. They don't do that. They just let you linger. They linger. And so many people stay on the roster because there's that cachet of saying, "Oh, I'm a signed Yucks comic." Whatever.
Well,
whatever.
Probably also the fear of like letting go of letting go of the buoy and going, "Well, what can I get on my own?"
But there are people like on the Yucks roster who like they probably haven't worked in 6 fucking months, but they can still say, "Oh, I'm on the Yucks roster." Lottie fucking dog, right? So with me, this is getting ahead. When I moved to Toronto, like.
So what started that?
I listened to everyone else. I bought into the whole idea that, so like I was working in the government. I hated my job. I was bored out of my mind, like a lot of public servants probably. But like I just, my marriage fell apart in like 2008, right around when I met you. Actually,
That's when I started like the first week of January 2009.
And yeah, like I was. Everything was wide open in my life. Like my personal life is like my marriage fell apart. I was wanting to leave the government. I got offered a buyout eventually to leave the government. And I was like, well, what's keeping me in Ottawa? And I bought into that myth, right? That idea that's still really prevalent, and not just in Canada, but everywhere in showbiz, right? Like if you're in the States, or even it's like you go to New York or go to LA or you go to London or you go to Toronto, you know, like in Canada, it's Toronto. It's our New York, right? So I bought into that. I was like, yeah, I got to move to Toronto. I got told all the time, you got to move to Toronto, you got to move to Toronto, you got to move to Toronto. And so I did it in, finally in like the spring of 2013, March 2013, I moved to Toronto. And like as still a Yucks guy at the time. So like it was okay at first, like I was doing all right. They were giving me fairly regular work, but I mean, again, it's the thing with the Yucks mentality, right? Is like you're not allowed to perform at rival clubs, but okay, in exchange for that, you're supposed to give me work. Right. That's the fucking deal, right? Yeah. Like it's reciprocated in that you give me work, but they didn't hold up their end of the bargain.
It's like joining a gang. It's like you got to be willing to die for us. It's like, well, what do you do for me?
Gotta protect
what do you do for
too.
me?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like they leave you to, because like with me, like Toronto didn't work out for me, I guess for different reasons. And I mean, I'm not without blame, like, because I didn't try. I just didn't fit in Toronto. Like, I just never felt like and I didn't make enough of an effort, but I also just got really depressed with like the whole scene. And you're told you got to move there. And then like you do these open mics and like 80% of them are a complete fucking waste of time. Like, I'm sorry, I get in trouble when I say this and people get mad at me, but like, 3/4 of the open mics in Toronto are a complete waste of time. They're masturbatory. Right?
Yeah.
You're performing in front of 15 other comics, all of whom are in their early 20s, and their parents pay their fucking rent.
Right.
And they're like on their phones your entire set. They're not even listening to you. It's like you'd be just as, I mean, you save the subway fare and just grab a hairbrush and do your set in front of a mirror. You'd get the same fucking outcome. That's 3/4 of the fucking open mics in Toronto is what I just described. Yeah. It doesn't benefit anybody. It doesn't, I mean, the bar makes some money on drinks, I guess, although they don't even drink these, like, they don't even, the bar, like, there's a show in Toronto, the Ossington. I don't know. I think they've sorted it out now. I don't know if you know that. It was so
Ossington
bad
rings a bell.
with these fucking annoying little fucking 20-year-olds. I know it, like they'd show up 3 hours because it's sign up, show up. So to be the first to sign up, they'd show up right when the bar is opening, 3 or 4 hours before the show starts. And they'd sit at the bar and drink water for 3 hours so they can be the first person to show up on this open mic. That's insane. That's what comedy does.
Well, that's
like you get nothing out of it. Like you're performing in front of no other people. So that's why like I just kind of got to the point where I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I? What's the point of this?
Yeah.
You know. And then I started working at a day job that I had to get up really early in the morning, and it kind of sucked the life out of me. Yeah. So the last 2 years I lived in Toronto, I didn't even do comedy. I pretty much stopped. Like I left Yucks and I did some openers at Absolute in Toronto. And then I got hurt playing sports and was on crutches for months. And I was just like, I find all kinds of excuses to lost my love of comedy. I just gave up on it.
Well, that's what happens. I moved back here because there was a point where I moved out with a roommate. He left like 2 months to us living together. So my cost of living went up with a roommate. Then it skyrocketed when he moved out.
Yeah.
And I worked like sometimes 16 hours a day. And I don't mean sometimes like once in a while. I mean like at least 3 times a week I'd be working 16-hour days. And all I could do is pay for my apartment, pay for my costs of living, my car.
So your all of your income was going to your rent.
Yeah. I was basically just living to pay bills. Right. And I know a lot of people are like, well, that's what you do. I'm like, yeah, but you have your family at the end of the day, or you have your
75% of your income is going to your rent.
Oh, mine easily 80 to 90%.
Where was this?
I lived on Somerville with Brendan. Oh. So when Brendan left, I I was paying for everything. And we had at least a year into it. And so I have other factors, not to make too long of a story, but at the end of the day, all I was doing was living to take care of or like working to pay bills. Like there was no, I would get the odd comedy gig, which was great because that was more money than everything else I was doing. But I would drive my first half of the day, I was driving Uber. The second half of the day, I was delivering pizzas. And that was it. And it was only because those two things were flexible enough I still entertained the idea that, oh, well, I'm a comedian and I need to be available to do comedy. So I still did my weeks at Absolute, twice a year, my weeks, my one-nighters, but that was it. My time doing the Nest. Like, so I wasn't making, stand-up certainly wasn't my main source of income. No. Right. And all I was doing was working to live. And I'm like, I'm not happy. So that's why I came back here. I was talking to Jason one time about having to do my taxes. I'm like, I've worked so many jobs this year just trying to make ends meet. I need help with taxes. And he said, you know what? One of the rooms is empty here. I left here to go live there. And I was like, you know what? If I come back here, I don't have to spend every waking hour delivering pizzas, driving people in Uber. So, and for me, it was like, I'm losing my passion for stand-up because I'm not even doing it.
I need a place in September, so
yeah. Hey, well, we can make room here. Come to the comedy orphanage.
No, my days of living with roommates.
Yeah,
I'm too old for that shit.
Yeah. Oh, there's.
I'm not an easy person to live with, as people listening to the podcast can probably tell.
Well, neither is anybody who lives here.
Fucking sunshine.
I think. I know is. I get it when you're not even doing, if you're moving to the most expensive city in the country just to do something and you're not doing it. I saw
a great tweet. I don't know who tweeted it. I retweeted it. I don't like it. It was to paraphrase something like, oh, I'm really having a hard time here, but you should definitely move here.
Yeah.
Every single person in Toronto. That's the quote. Yeah. It's like, it's true in hindsight, hey, I tried it. Part of it, I think also is that like I've lived in this area my whole life, and I think I just wanted to get away. I was like, I just want to try living in another city, just so I can say I've lived somewhere else. And I mean, I didn't hate everything about Toronto, but in terms of like comedy, like again, I didn't work at it very hard, but like I'm more of a 500,000 to 1 million city kind of guy, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. Like I just,
there's an article about the more people in an area and the higher cost of living, the more it affects like how the general populace is, like attitude wise. I don't like being in Toronto because I find everyone's very
cold,
rude and cold on the street. Once you get inside, it's different. Everyone's a person again. But
per se, there's a
people don't even hold the door or something.
Coldness, kind of like I just never felt like I fit in. I couldn't find the right little. Like I'd go to comedy bar, which was like 5 minutes from where I lived, and I felt like I was back in fucking high school. It was like I just can't. I would just hang out with. The only comedians I ever really hung out with in Toronto were like people that I knew from Ottawa. And so it was like, this isn't for me. And like, Howard, after I got back, he was like, oh yeah, you never should have moved to Toronto. Like he was like, I told you shouldn't have moved to Toronto. You never should have left.
Right. And if it had worked out the other way, he'd have found a way to have been right about that. Everybody operates from hindsight.
When I left Yucks, like when I formally decided, okay, I'm just not going to say Yucks anymore. Like he's like, oh, yeah, you. It was like when I finally had the conversation with Breslin, like he told me like the day before, he's like, this isn't going to go well for you. You know that, right? Like, oh, okay. In reference to the conversation I was going to have with Breslin.
Right.
And Breslin told me, like, he's like, oh, you should just move back to Ottawa and be, the man there or whatever. Or a man, not the man, whatever, right? But I was like, oh, okay. That was his advice to me. And then I wound up taking it, like, not long afterwards, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, like, nobody knows the recipe for the sauce, especially in comedy. And that's the thing, too. Like, this is what I told people. I know at some point I will end up in Toronto. I'm kicking and screaming, but I don't. This is what I always told people. Is a lot of guys like, I got to go to Toronto. I go, why? Like, what are you going to do in Toronto?
Like, honestly,
I tell them, like, if you go to Toronto and let's say you get on every open mic you want, you're doing open mic 7 nights a week, and in no time at all, you've generated 3 hours of A material. No arguments.
3 hours.
I'm giving them what they think. So I go, so now you've got 3 hours of A material undeniably. What are you going to do? Do you know what I mean? Like, you still, like, a lot of guys think that the key to their success moving to Toronto is to just, you can get on stage way more. That's great. But what are you going to do with the time? Like, you still need to know how to, email clubs, and you still need to go.
I guess the appeal too, right, is that it's the land of opportunity in terms of like there's just more happening in terms of like, hey, booking commercials or getting a gig on Mr. D or getting a writing gig on Mercer Report.
But you still have to write to get that gig. You still have to do auditions to get that.
Yeah.
And everyone, I think that there's a big, like you said, right off the beginning, is everyone, the appeal of comedy is, hey, to play video games and drink all night. Well, all of those opportunities exist. A lot of those opportunities, I apologize, exist in Ottawa. They exist in Montreal.
Oh, yeah.
Like everybody has opportunities. And not even find them. You can create them.
Yeah.
You can submit to Mercer from Ottawa. And if they like you, they give you a job, then you move to Toronto. Like everyone thinks that running to Toronto, it's almost like when people hate their lives and they don't do anything about it. And it's like you're waiting for UPS to show up. Hey, here's your new life. No, I'm not talking about
that
you.
Dude, that is me.
But
that
people are like, oh, here's your new life, sign here. It doesn't happen like that.
I know. Yeah, I know. You got to put the work in. I get it. I'm aware of my multiple
But I'm not coming at you. I'm saying that everyone who moves to Toronto.
No, but it is me. Like, it is me. I bitch and moan about, like, my lot in life. But, like, okay, well, then fucking do something about it, man.
But here's the thing. I know all these things, and I've made attempts at them, and I'm in the exact same boat. I don't know what's next. I don't know what the path is. I don't know what to do next. I do this podcast because I'm creating something. Oh, yeah. I'm leaving something behind. But it doesn't mean that this is going to lead to anything.
No, but it's content. It's content.
So is the fucking, the little YouTube things that are put on there.
No, there's guys coming to Yucks this Sunday that I've never heard of them. I have no idea who the hell they are.
What are they, YouTube sensations?
Yeah, that's like, they sold out the club like at I don't know how much a ticket. Apparently, I don't know anything about them. All I know is I was told by someone they're not good, but they have a following, and that's what matters. That's the kind, and it's, you can bitch about it, or you can just, okay, well, hey, how does a 44-year-old guy try to become viral on YouTube? Like, I don't, like sometimes I feel like a lot of that stuff, the ship has sailed. Like, I'm 44, man. Like, I'm not young.
Rodney Dangerfield was 55 when he got...
Everyone throws him out as an example.
Morgan Freeman was like in his 60s, wasn't he? 50s or 60s? Morgan Freeman was going to quit every single time. Morgan Freeman said every single time he was like, I'm leaving this business, he would get another gig right like the day he was ready to stop. He would get another gig, and it just kept
mythologized, though. You think that's true? Like I'm really skeptical of stories like that where I hear like, oh yeah, but there's this one guy.
I just think that
I was like, nah, dude, I'm in my 40s. I have no fucking festival appearances. I have no credits. Nobody knows what the hell I am. I've never been on TV. Like, it's not gonna poof. Hey, all of a sudden you're gonna become a big star at 51 years old.
Of course, but it doesn't just happen like that. That's the thing. That's why I do this podcast too, with having guests, is that I want people to see, because here's the thing, whether you're aware of it or not, you are incredibly respected in this city as one of the funniest guys that gets up on stage. I would be very surprised.
Tell that to people in Toronto, because that's
fuck Toronto.
No, because I'm still bitter about that. Like, I felt like that's the problem. Like, I get to Toronto and like, I have a chip on my shoulder and I'm like, whatever, but like, people this would happen to me a lot in Toronto, and it's like, deal with it. But I'm also like, like, what the fuck? Like, I would do, like, I'd meet people that I've done weekends with, like people that like I've hosted for or middled for, where like I worked with them all weekend long, more than once. Like, I know these people, like I've hung out with them, I drank beer with them, and then I'd meet them in Toronto at the downtown club, just doing a spot. And they'd be like, "Oh, hey, I'm so and so." Like, I've worked with you like 8 fucking times, and you act like you've never even met me before.
Yeah.
And like shit like that really bothers me. And I know you gotta like suck it up, but I'd be like, "Fuck you, man!" Like, don't give me this big time bullshit, man. I fucking hung out with you, Like,
I think that's. I mean, I'm learning, dude. I've the last 10 years I have done the most growing in my entire life. And it's not entirely really. A lot of it has nothing to do with stand up. It's all like myself and personal insecurities.
You need to read
but I look
your
at
self-help books.
Well, all I do is I look at those guys who are doing it. And I go, I know you know me. This isn't on me. This is on you. You have a chip on your shoulder. Not you, but they have a chip on their shoulder where they need to act like they're above.
Yeah,
like, I meet so many people. You know what? If you're that insecure that you need to make the guy who opened for you or featured for you
10 people that did that to me. I won't, but like just where I'm like, really.
But
really? Then like you contrast that with like the first time I did a set with Scott Thompson, who was like a really nice guy, and like he came up to me. He was like, we were both on like a Wednesday at Yucks, a downtown club, each shooting 8 minutes. He's like, "Hi, I'm Scott," as though I wouldn't know who he was. I'm like,
right.
that's so nice of you to do that. But yeah, of course I know who you are. You're Scott Thompson. You're one of the kids in the hall, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, going back to like
humility.
How respected I am, please.
You are, because you are funny. And I mean, even not being satisfied with your sets sometimes, you know that you wouldn't still be getting paid work and you wouldn't still be getting on stage and big laughs if you weren't funny. So you know that you are funny. There's a ton of guys who think you're... dude, I've always thought that you were funny. I respect the fact. I also, it's interesting to me because I know I've dealt with my own insecurities, not just in life, but in stand-up. And the fact that I see you do so well on stage and come off and seem so unhappy, I'm like, oh, I think that gives me hope that I can still...
No, it's not that I'm unhappy. Like, I mean, like, when it's...
Satisfied, maybe?
Yeah, if the set goes well, like, I mean, I feel good about it. Like, it's... I mean, even if outwardly it doesn't seem like it, but I do. Like, I mean, I'm like, oh, that went well. Like, that was good. I had a good set. Like, I don't, like, think I bomb when I do well. Even if I'm, like, nitpicky about, like, that one bit didn't do well.
Well, like, the day after legalization, you did a spot at Absolute. My opinion had the set of the night. Because you're like a fog settles that. Like that was the day of the it wasn't the night before, it was the night after, like the night of the day of legalization.
I remember that.
And you brought the house down with that, just a topical thing. I don't know if you're still doing it, but it was just something that you had thought about that frustrated you, and you wrote it down, you fucked with it. You know what I mean? And
I don't know if it's like I get high too much now, but like that's one of those bits that I totally forgot. Aaron Powers, like, all the time, really, like, quote bits I did, like, 8 years ago. Like, remember you did that bit? Like, no, I don't.
Yeah. But I'm not paranoid. I did that whole deal. I'm not. Stop telling me.
Well, I haven't done that one in a long time.
Lululemon's a cult. And but it's funny. And it's still relevant. Everything that you're saying is...
Put this in my
depression.
notebook.
Yeah, depression is more because that's the bit, right?
Here's my notebook. Bring back 9-year-old bits.
Yeah, but the thing too is, I mean, I can't say that I've done this, but every now and again, I'll see something that I'm like, oh, and I'll riff with it in my head, and I just so much easily have more things to throw on it because you're just looking at it with fresher, more experienced eyes.
I have like a lot of little one-liners and bits like that, stuff I forgot that I even did. Just like they get shuffled out, and then like 3 months later, I'll be looking at my notebook like, oh yeah, remember like just the other day it had the MDMA. Like I used to do a bit. About Sober October. I didn't do Sober October. However, I did do MDMA Movember, where I did MDMA every day for the month of November or something stupid like that. And okay.
But there's all sorts of little thoughts too. Like I'm sure I will think of something while I'm driving and I go, there's no way I'm going to forget that. And 10 minutes later, it's fucking gone.
Yeah, no,
like,
for sure. That happens to me at night a lot.
More...
That happens at night where it's like you're falling asleep and you think of something funny.
I'll remember it in the morning.
And you're like, I'll remember in the morning. Or you try to write in your notebook in the dark. And it's like that Seinfeld bit, right? Where you're trying to read your handwriting in the dark.
Yeah. Well, I've got a little Sony recorder now that I try not to go anywhere without. And I'm successful bringing it with me about 5% of the time, which still seems like too high for the amount
this was like as I was falling asleep, I tried to write this in my notebook. And it was like, I think I can
What happens to you?
Can you read that?
Had. I can read the word had and I think and.
Let me see.
Hefted? Is that it? I think like and had.
Okay, no, actually,
equilibrium is the last one.
Every job I've had, I've felt unqualified. That's what.
So do you want to write it down for real this time?
Yeah, maybe I should. No, I can make it out.
I'll remember it later.
Well, no, I can make it out because I do kind of remember where I was coming from because I just got laid off from my day job last week, so that's why I was kind of thinking about jobs. Yeah, no, whatever. I didn't really like it.
The thing too is like I used to.
Why I have all this time during the day right now to
great.
Like
make content,
write the great American novel.
I used to write one like a little point form thing because I think guys, especially Grunstra, would get it in my head that like people will take your notebooks. If you leave your notebook behind, someone will steal your ideas. Don't put your shit on YouTube because someone will take it if it's not been done. So I didn't. That was something that got in my head. I don't post my shit on YouTube. I've got a couple little 3-minute, 9-minute videos only for bookings.
I've started recording myself more only since I've come back to Ottawa like a year ago.
Oh yeah.
But then like 2 weeks ago at the gym, I dropped a 50-pound barbell on my phone. And had all the videos were on it. Didn't have anything backed up, of course. So now I'm like, oh crap! All those videos that I like. Yeah. So they're all gone, I guess.
I don't have a camcorder right now.
Yeah, it was just stuff I recorded on my phone, right? Like I literally at like Absolute. I'm just doing a spot.
Do you have some like a? I don't. How do you? I guess a little grip with a tripod. Kind of thing?
So I had my old phone was actually. was the old SE, like it had the boxy edges. So like,
Yeah.
and I didn't have a case on it, so I could literally just sit it up like this.
Oh,
and
on
it
a
would
table. It
record.
would stay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Now people listening would be like, wouldn't know. Yeah, but like
Yeah.
I could sit it on its side. But I this new phone, the 8, I can't do that. I need a pod or something, or like a little
That's
thing.
what I want to start doing is recording my sets. I
Well,
record
'cause-
them audio.
This is how like dumb I am about even like Winnipeg Comedy Festival, right? Like I didn't even know you could apply to it. I had no idea. I thought it was just okay, you audition for them like as part of the audition, whatever, and
Right.
then like if you don't audition for them, you're not even on the radar. And someone's like, no, you can submit video. I'm like, really? Okay. And I mean, there's all kinds of festivals and stuff like that out there where it's like, oh, you actually have to go to them and submit. So it's
Right.
like, I should probably start recording myself. For
Yeah.
the, like I honestly didn't even know. I was like, oh, they come to you, right? I don't know. I don't.
I had a comic ask me in the first like year of my doing stand up or second, whatever. They were new. I was new. But I'd mentioned that I was going to the Comedy Nest in, on the weekend or next week, whatever. And they're like, so who calls you for that?
Yeah.
And I was like, I reached out to them. I asked them if I
Funny you
could
bring
come.
that place up. I'm trying to. I haven't been there forever. I just emailed.
Dave.
A guy last week.
Yeah.
Haven't heard back from him yet. So
It takes-
if you're I know.
It takes some time. I doubt he's listening. But I'll definitely mention that you're back now.
I don't think he even really knows me. It was Joey Elias that told me to get in touch with him. I've worked with him a bit. I hit it off with him, but I don't really know David Acker. It's because like all these years of being like a Yucks guy, there's so many absolute guys I don't even know them. I've never really worked with them.
Dave's the
No, I know. Well, yeah, he's
but
a
I'll
super funny guy.
I'll mention it too because he will reach out to me often, and a lot. I don't know why, but for the only times he needs me last minute is always when I'm booked. I don't have a ton of bookings, but it's always when I'm booked with something. It's the dog again. Yeah. I'm just all I see is the tail. It's fucking weird. It looks like in the Sesame Street or the Muppet Show where you'll just see something like they've got like a tail wagging behind the wall or something. Mm-hmm. That's just all it is. It's just some weird fucking puppet show going on behind you every time the dog goes by. Someday this will be a video podcast, but then we're gonna have to wear shirts and pants. Yeah. I'm not a big fan of that. No. But I don't know. This is one of the things that I've started doing is I've started making lists of like.
This is turning into a self-help podcast.
Who gives a shit? Are you having fun though?
Yeah.
No, okay, good. As long as you're
really like, here are all the things I need to do to get my life sorted.
But here's
first of all, quit comedy, move to Bancroft, work at a grocery store, and become that weird guy who's working on a novel.
So I listened to the Brent Butt episode of Mark Maron's podcast. Did you hear it?
I haven't listened to that one yet. I listen to Mark Maron's podcast fairly regularly, but I haven't listened to that one yet. No,
I don't. I think I've listened to 4 of them, and they were all in like the last week.
Funny, the last Mark Maron podcast I listened to was just last week, and he had David Lee Roth on. It's funny. It was you pick me up. There was David Lee Roth playing. It was like just
coincidental. Yeah. When he was talking with Brent Butt was saying that he didn't like come up with this great idea for Corner Gas. Corner Gas was Brent Butt's what if I never started comedy? What would I be doing with my life right now? He's like, I'd probably be like running a gas station in the middle of Saskatchewan. Corner Gas, one of the biggest Canadian shows of all time, was just reflecting on like, well, what if I didn't do this? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And there's not a big difference.
Well, I often think about it, like even if I never started in comedy, like I'd probably be a director in the government now, and I'd be like living in Canada and
yeah, you think so? I can't imagine it.
I'd probably be happier.
You think so? I think people. I don't know.
I'd still be married probably. Too,
I joke on stage that like people.
Comedy pretty much is like played a big part in my marriage falling apart for sure.
Sorry.
I mean, not to get all like.
No,
it definitely did. It definitely did. Because I was out every night doing shows and whatever.
But you still like it even after all this time, right?
Yeah, most of the time. I like it when I'm doing it. I hate everything else that goes with it. I hate the whole frustration of whatever. Why am I not booked for this? And why is this guy getting? But I know the comparison thing that I can't. It's hard to get.
Dude, I still do it.
Especially here in Ottawa.
I still do it
because like here in Ottawa, it's like no, I'm fucking better than these people. That's but that's just arrogance, right?
Well, here's the thing: is the only things I've learned from these
if it's
books
somebody in
tools.
Toronto who's like demonstrably way better than me, I don't. It's like okay, they deserve it.
One of the things I started to look at early, which helped me, was I don't know any like a guy like Kevin Hart. I don't care for his stand-up.
Sure.
But I have absolutely no idea how hard he's working off stage. I have no idea what he's doing, what his grind is like. So I have no idea. Like that's like I said, one of the reasons I want to do this podcast is to talk to people, because somebody would see somebody like let's say, like I've had Paul Verzi on. Paul's a good friend of mine. He's the guy who opens for Bill Burr. Just a couple of years ago, he filmed a special. His special was part of a 4-special deal with All Things Comedy and Comedy Central. His the streaming of his special was like #1 of all time on Comedy Central. Like the guy is he's filming a movie now, big movie with I don't want to say too much. I don't know if they're allowed to, but he told me therefore he's filming a big movie with a big name in
Things
comedy.
are going well.
Things are going incredibly well for him. But I also know like how fucking hard he works behind the scenes and everything like that. I know how much he's doing. But I try to share stories like his with people, because people will see that level of success and they go, oh, well, he's got it great.
It's
like, well,
happened, yeah.
Right.
Like, it's like, well, no, they put the work in.
Yeah. And you listen to stories like
they put the work in to make your opportunities happen.
He drove 16 hours one time to do a 3-minute showcase. Like that kind of shit.
Must have been a hell of a showcase,
and it worked out well. But the idea was
3
that like
minutes,
3 minutes.
My God, I can't even do it. Like,
that's most spots in Los Angeles. 3 minutes.
Wow, it's a good thing I don't live there.
It was hard.
It's 3.
The night I did
bits are like 6-minute long diatribes. I don't even get warmed up in 3 minutes.
Well, that's what I was looking at. I go 3 minutes. I tell stories like I don't really know, but I did a 3-minute set at the Comedy Store, and I was like, that was really hard. I did 2 of my smaller jokes, and it went well. But I'm like, I've never done them like that because I've never smashed those 2 short jokes together. But here they did, and they did fine, thank God. But the same show, DJ Demers was with me. He went up and he did the 3 minutes. I was like, it's fucking hard doing 3 minutes. He goes, but that's kind of what's fun about LA is like it teaches you you don't have as much time. Because again, there's even more people chomping at the bitch.
It's like Toronto.
John
like
Hastings was
10,
there that night too. Like we bumped into him. We're like, what the fuck? And he's like, I just moved here. Like, so John Hastings is in LA now.
Oh, really? I didn't even know that.
And he's like, I just
doesn't live
here.
in
Not
England
anymore. Well, I mean, I was there in November, so who knows what the last 6 months have held for him. But
I don't. Yeah.
But it's just like, it's interesting to see that. But there's so many people who don't know the tough shit that goes on. And like I said, there's a ton of people in this community that see you as the big fish, and you are funny. You do very well when you do on the stage. And I think that you're a great example for them of the self-awareness thing, where you do very well. You don't get off stage and go, "That's how it's fucking done, kids," and like walk past them like other guys do. I think
I wouldn't.
No, but that's what I'm saying.
Who does that?
That's Ottawa? Embellished. There's guys who, we talked about the young guys on stage. There's names.
But they would never do that.
There's names that I would never say on the podcast, but they do moderately well and walk around like they are the absolute best, like they're the king of shits.
Okay.
That
name.
Yeah. And they will make other people feel like shit. And it's like, you're nowhere. And this is obviously arrogant of me to say, it's judgmental and whatnot. It's like, but you didn't do anywhere near good enough to walk around making other people feel like they're shitty at this. Like, we're all in the same fucking grind.
Those are they're the same people also sometimes who like they won't give you like. It's happened to me a few times where like I've gone up and like murdered, like killed, and like people they won't even like people that I know, I'm almost I'd say like kind of friends with, and they'd be like. They won't give you the whole like, hey, good centering. They won't acknowledge it. They're like, it's like that's making them seem weaker. Right. If they say to you like, oh, you did great there. Like they'll never give a compliment. I don't know why I'm bringing up that, but it's like that. Well, did you feel that? So maybe that's a question going back, because I notice it and I try to warn some of the younger guys about it, who actually, when they start to get a little bit of traction, start to do well. Like, because I'm the kind of person that I do want everyone to win. You know what I mean? And it's not impossible, but if you're just waiting for the clubs to recognize you, it's not going to happen. Everyone can't win. But there's guys who I start to see doing well, and I tell them, like, just a heads up, you're doing great, keep doing it, but like you're going to feel some of the coldness from your group. And they say, yeah, I'm already feeling it. I go, just know that it's
don't take it personally. It's because everyone's supportive when everyone's at the bottom. And then as soon as one rises up, same thing happened to Kronk when he was here. I talked to him one time where he did well and he won some competition and he started to go. He started to. I don't know if that's the one.
He won the absolute one, right?
He did win it one of the years.
Summer I moved to
but he
Toronto.
did something else that he got a little bit of recognition for. And I said, hey man, congratulations on that. And he goes,
well, it's
nothing. No, that's not something that other people can just take away from you. But it was something that was small. But he had competed, he had won, and I go, hey man, congratulations on that. And he goes, well, it's not really a thing. Like it's no big. And I go, hold on a second. I go, the entire community, well, not the entire community. I go, there's a lot of people in this community that are going to shit on that accomplishment for you. Don't do it to yourself. All right. If it's nothing and anyone can get it, then anyone would have got it. I go, you got it. They didn't. That's why they're going to take it away from you. I said, there's lots of things in the industry that people will make it nothing. The only reason they have to shit on it, make it nothing, because they didn't get it. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's not easy to get everything. I remember I have absolutely zero pride in the Faces magazine thing that I had done. When I had started to when I got nominated for a favorite comedian, I always have to go favorite, not best, but when I got nominated for favorite, it's because
I was voted favorite pro by my peers this year.
Yeah, well, the peers thing means something. That's great. Peers. But all I'm saying is,
Faces magazine
with the Faces magazine, I was on the cover. I had gone to Faces magazine, and I said, "Hey, you guys do showcases of local people. Yeah. Can I be on it?"
Sure.
And the guy said, "No, that was like in September." He goes, "We're booked up for like 6 months." Then the guy saw me at a show months later and was like, "Hey, I'm wondering if you'd like to do an article." I go, "Yeah, I reached out to you guys." And he goes, "Yeah." And I go, "Well, I'd like, can I be your cover feature? Blah blah blah." Like basically, it was having a conversation with the business. And he goes, "Well, normally we sell that spot, but I'll give you a real good price on it because we don't have anyone lined up for February." I asked for January because that was my birthday month. Right. And he goes, "I don't have January's taken. I can give you February." Right. Well, so I ended up doing it with them. We did an article, everything like that. And that was the same month that they did the nominations for the categories.
Right.
So my face being on the cover, people were nominating me. They read my thing. They came to the show. And it also got me a week at Absolute. Yeah. Jason booked me for a week in February because it was promoting with the free promo for him. And it got me work by doing when we talk about, hustling, trying to generate stuff. But all I know is
it's like, and that's the thing, right? Like I'm just, right now I'm, like this is my big project, making business cards. I'm like, wow,
but it's something.
But that's the thing. It's because, like, I mean, it's like you got to think about it like a business, right? And I mean, if I were a real estate salesperson, like Brendan, or whoever, like, would you be like, I'm good at selling houses, but people will just come to me. Like I don't need to get my name out there. No, you have to like.
Well, you're not going to be successful if you have that thought, but I guarantee you, there's people that are thinking that way. That's why.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like the stupidity of like my mentality of like, oh well, because like I'm like, well, I'm funny enough. I should just be getting all this work. It's like, well, no, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? Like you need to do that shit. Like you need to like. Nobody's going to break your door down.
Well, this is what I was getting at with that story, is that in that moment for me, I was working hard. I was pursuing something. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then when that was over, right, I won. Mm-hmm. I won because I absolutely asked people to vote for me. When I got nominated, I was like, oh, that's great. I asked people to vote for me. Yeah. It's the same as the serious competition.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Right. The thing is, when people are like, yeah, you're the best because you're campaigning for votes. Yeah. That's how elections work. They're not just going, hey, listen to my thing, and I'll leave it in God's hands. If I'm the best, I'll get recognized. No, you're actually campaigning for any kind of elected thing. Yeah. And so here's the thing, though, is when I got it, the entire community was shitting on me and telling me it's nothing, it's garbage. And I believed it. I was brand new. Brand new. Something that I was kind of happy about. I'm like, oh, it's a little accolade, something. Yeah. Totally took any joy out of it.
There were some roast jokes about it.
Here's the thing. This really sucked. Is I think and it's not a great I'm not defending the magazine.
I just saw actually because I'm looking for a new job right now.
I'm sure they're looking for someone.
Funny you should bring that up. They're actually looking for a social media manager right now.
Well, here's the thing. I think 2 months after I was in the magazine, I saw a posting like Faces looking for someone for sales, and I said, "What's the job?" They're like, "We're just trying to sell advertising space." So I said, "Okay, cool. Can I?" They were like, it's purely commission, but I had time during the day. So I go, fuck it. I'll go and see. Well, everyone found out that I worked for Faces afterwards, and they go, oh, so you just gave yourself the award because you worked for them. And I go, that's not the case at all. So get this. The following year, awards time comes up, and I was co-hosting some of the mornings on Dog FM. So Dylan Black, a friend of mine, and now very strongly affiliated with Yuck Yucks.
Sure.
Dylan was campaigning for himself to be nominated for favorite radio personality, and he was campaigning for me to be favorite comedian. And I begged him not to. I begged him. I said, don't. There's no joy in that for me whatsoever. I already take so much shit for this. Please don't. But he was still every day on the radio. And now I've got a radio person saying to vote for me, and everyone else is maybe on the internet.
Right.
I won it again the next year. And when I won it, zero joy. Zero joy. In fact, I felt my stomach turn because I'm like, this just means I'm going to have to take shit again. But I'm saying that's what achievements in the industry can do when you let other people decide what you earned and what's good and what's not. And it's just like, you know what? If anyone could win something, that's why I told guys like Adrian who
the whole nomination process for that Faces thing. I remember is like I just remember like where it'd be like looking at the list and some of the people like nominated. I'd be like, who. They're not. Who is that? They're not even a comedian. I've never even heard of them before.
I have been on that list every single year since for the nominees. I have lifted zero fingers. I have never. Yeah. I find out that I'm nominated when they message me and say, "Oh, do you want to buy a ticket for that night?" And I go, "Oh, I didn't know." Or someone will message me, "Hey, congratulations." I'm like, "For what?"
Well, no, I mean, that's the whole premise of it's like what Express used to do, right? Like they'd have best of, and it was a ploy to like sell advertising. Yeah. It's like, hey, thanks for naming us Ottawa's favorite sex shop.
I reached out to them once and I said, because they had a bartender on that list, favorite comedian.
Ottawa's favorite bartender?
No.
Because they have that too.
Comedian, and he was, the guy favorite esthetician, favorite mortgage broker.
Favorite nuclear scientist.
Yeah, it's everything.
Ottawa's favorite program director at
I sent them one, Ottawa's favorite category creator for Faces Magazine. But there was a bartender on it, and I said, I reached out to them, I go, look, I get that this guy's funny. I know who he is. I get that he's funny. It's just his name's Junior Mbang or whatever, but he's just.
Where was he a bartender?
Oh well, he's one of those like bar stars. Like he's been a bartender everywhere. I don't know, like Mansion. I don't know.
I'm just curious. I don't know.
I'm friends with him on Facebook. I'll show you his picture, and if you know him, you know him. But all I know is that they were like favorite comedian. And I said, listen,
because he was a funny bartender. Because
he's a funny. Because everyone knows him as a funny. The people who read Faces would know him as a funny guy. And I just said, look. I go, your list of favorite comics, I go, you've got, this was also like 5-6 years ago.
Right.
But I said, your list of favorite comics, I go, first off, you have Tom Green on this list. This is before Tom was coming every year. I got Tom Green on this list. Yes, Tom Green is from Ottawa, but he hasn't performed here I don't think I've ever seen him do stand-up comedy in Ottawa. He's doing it in the States.
He lives in LA.
Right. And I go, now you got guys like John Doerr, and you got guys like, I think that was it. I go, but you know what? You know who does live here? If you're going to just start naming all the famous names, I go, Norm Macdonald's from here. He should be on your list too. If you're just naming famous comedians from Ottawa, I go, you should also have Mike McDonald, Jeremy Hotz. If you're just naming guys who haven't even performed here in this calendar year that are from Ottawa, here's a big list of names. I go, however, this one guy here is a bartender. He's never set foot on stage to perform stand-up comedy. I go, I've poured drinks in my house. Do I get to be nominated for favorite bartender? I go, I just think it's unfair that you have him on the list and he's never performed stand-up. You should have a little bit. I go, it's already a joke, the thing. Yeah. Like, I go, you should have a little bit of a standard. Like, if you're not a comic, you don't get to be, favorite comedian.
Right.
Anyways, whatever. We're going real far off track. Yeah. But all I know is going back to you can accomplish shit in this industry. And like you said, coming off stage and people are cold or, pretend to forget who you are or whatever it is. There's so many people out there who are going to take the joy away from things for you that you shouldn't do it to yourself. If you accomplish something, I'm not saying be proud of it, get in people's faces, but we do spend time feeling shitty about accomplishments because I think in the back of our heads, or at least for myself for a very long time, I know someone can't wait to take it away from me. Someone else can't wait to say, hey, this is no good because...
Yeah, you've done this, but...
It's like, well, then why don't you have it? If it's nothing, why don't you have it? In terms of your list of shit to do, the only difference between you and me is the fact that A, you're funnier, but B, I just make lists of shit. Like I've got myself now to a point where I'm like, okay, I don't know what direction to walk in, which is not necessarily a bad thing, right? I always talk about, well, what direction do I do in stand-up? Because I'm like, what do I do next? I don't know for sure that if I do this, it's going to lead somewhere. But if you don't have any direction, then whatever direction you start walking in isn't the wrong way, which is kind of a positive. But I've started making lists like as long as every day, because I'll look at my list and go, okay, I got to email Halifax and Winnipeg. I got to make a mailing list. I need to make a Facebook page. I need to get better at social media. I might need to make business cards or, do a new episode of the podcast or create a new podcast with a different format. Like, so what I've done is I've started making a list of the things that I need to do, and I just pick one for today. One of the things that Trent McClellan shared with me is that he has he does like a mailing list, but all he does from every show is he just gets an email address and the city. That's it. He doesn't get a ton of information. He just gets email address and city, so that when he's going to be in a city, he can just send an email to that city. Hey, I'm coming on this date. Yeah. And that's what helps him sell tickets for sure. So I'd like to start doing things like that just to create a market outside of Ottawa for when I go open for somebody or whatever. But the same thing true of like making a Facebook page or getting better at social media. Sorry, buddy.
No.
But that's all I'm trying to do is I'd like to email a new club that I've never contacted before. So today I'm emailing Rumors. Cool. That's a start. You know what I mean? So it's just a matter of like chipping away a little bit at that. But the difference, I've got all these books and all these tools. Well, it's great to have the tool. I still have to use it. You know what I mean? It's like today I bought this tool and I know what it's supposed to do, but I still have to do it. I think that whatever, to go back to kissing your ass, I think that you're incredibly funny. I think you have a tremendous amount of talent. And I really do honestly and sincerely recognize all of the thoughts and feelings that you're having of just the whole like, I've been doing it for a long time and I've lost the passion. I'm trying through this podcast and through all of these little writing tools and shit to
and like all the
fire.
joking and constant, like, I mean, for as long as I've been doing comedy, it's a running, like Dom used to make fun of me all the time because I'd be like, I'm quitting comedy. Like, oh yeah, right, Trevor, you're quitting comedy. Like it was a running gag, right? And I'd be like, I never mean it. I know I'm never going to, like, I mean, I didn't do it for like almost 2 years really, but I can't walk away. You can't like the last couple nights I haven't really gone out to the club, but like my pants get up and walk there by themselves, right? Like because they're just so accustomed to me. Because I mean, it's my life or a big part of my life, so I know that I'm never gonna walk away from it. I'm in a down. You caught me on like a down period, and it's all because there's other stuff going on in my life too. Like I need a new place to live, and I need a new job, and I fretting about money and stuff like that too, right? So I'm kind of like, I mean, I'll probably produce good comedy, right? That's when things are bad, my comedy's good.
That's a big laugh, by the way, for you to audibly laugh. Yeah. But that's that's one of the things. That's one of the things though, like with these conversations though, is like a lot of people think like there's hundreds of thousands of comics who are going through what you're going through. No, I know. You're funny. Yeah. You're funny, but it's hard to find the direction. Yeah. And there's a million other things going on.
I mean, my goal at this point in my life, and like I live in Ottawa, so I know it's like, I mean, I came back here like a year and a half ago, like after doing everything there was to do in Toronto. And I mean, this is, I don't know, maybe this is a pipe dream, but I just like, just being able to make a living from this, which seems impossible, right? But even just a semblance of like a middle class living from it would be like, that's a dream. That's like, oh my God, that's pie in the sky.
Right.
But yeah, like we've been talking about for the last half hour, it's like, okay, well, it's not just gonna happen, right? Like you gotta do something about it. So
do you have, I mean, it sounds like such a stupid shifting gears question, but it's part of it, is do you have a writing process?
Not really, no. That's another, I'm not disciplined enough with writing where like I write sometimes like finger quote where I'll just think up something and I'll just jot something down in a notebook, but I don't actually have enough to, it's really hard. I don't know why. It's like the same reason like working out. Like I could never work out at home. I could never have a gym at home. I have to go out to a gym to work out. Mm-hmm.
We have one in the basement.
I feel the same way about writing, where it's like for some reason I really have a hard time writing at home. No matter how nice a desk or setup or whatever I have, I feel like I have to go out to like the cliche coffee shop and sit down. But when I actually write, like sit down, like, okay, I am writing jokes right now. I really have a tendency to overwrite, but I mean, I guess everyone, where like I'll write way too much. Where like a bit that's like, it's gonna be a 4 or 5 minute bit, and I'll write like 12 minutes. It's a matter of like cutting out, right? But like, And then I'll try it out once where it's like way too wordy and just needs so much cut out of it. And if it doesn't go well, instead of like, I'm thinking of one bit in particular I wrote like a year ago, and I tried it once and it didn't work, and I just gave up on it. And like, no, you should probably, revisit that one, right? But like, I don't write in a disciplined enough manner. And this goes back to like treating it like a job, right? Like, novelists that I've admired who like Mordecai Richler, who was a famous writer, right? Like not a comedian per se, but like a novelist who would like he would get up every morning and like put on a shirt and go sit at his desk and write like it was a job, right? Because that was his job. And then at 4:00 he'd go to the bar and get hammered, but it was like the writer's life. But like that kind of thing where it's like,
as long as he's doing his job
right now, I have so much time on my hands right now, and I'm not, like you got to take better advantage of it, right? So it's like this podcast for me is turning into like kind of a self-help episode for myself, where I'm kind of like, okay, here's the things I need to.
Can I ask, are you afraid to do it?
How do you mean?
I know I'm afraid to do it.
Yeah,
I'm afraid to do it. Like so your notebook, that's already leaps and bounds above what I was doing.
I carry this with me everywhere I go.
Yeah, so you're already doing more than what I was doing for 10 years.
Oh, yeah?
Because, I'd get an idea and I might write it down on the back of a fucking paper, go for breakfast and write it on the back of a napkin.
For me, I'm more afraid of trying sometimes, where it's like, no, don't try, because it's probably not, it's like the self-defeating, like pessimistic attitude of mine I need to get out of my life, where I'm like, don't try, because if you don't try, then you have this ready-made excuse for when you don't succeed. Like, well, that guy wanted it more. If that's what you were getting at, then
like,
yes.
do you not do it? Because if you try and you fuck up, but at least if you don't, you can go, well, it's because I didn't do it.
It's like,
but again, if I try, then I'm like, oh, fuck,
not to quote Homer Simpson again, but, trying is the first step towards failure.
Right,
because
but it's also
sometimes
the first step
I feel
towards success.
like, for sure, right? No journey of a million miles.
No risk, no reward,
they
all
all
that
begin with a single step, right? I just need to like get over myself and start working harder. That's what I need to do.
Very, very slowly taking steps. Like I said, that's already more than what I'm doing.
Okay.
So I've had, luckily from the books and shit like that, I'm having confidence to start doing more things. There's, in the happiness equation that I read, there was a thing saying that like people say that, there's the what is it? The doing something, or like believing you can do something, then the wanting to do something, then doing something.
Yeah. And
they said that a lot of people treat it like it's like that. So it's like believing it, wanting it, and then doing it. And they said that that's a cycle. It's more circular than it is steps, because don't start with the whole, believing you can do it. It's just do it. Yeah. If you want to write, just start writing. And then when you're writing, you're going to notice, I am doing this. I got 3-4 pages.
Well,
now you're going to want to do it.
And like, not to like, the whole, because writing is one of the, like the endorphins, it's the same endorphins you get from runner's high, from exercising, right? Where it's like you feel, after I do it, I feel better. I'm like, I forgot how this makes my brain feel better. But okay, well, do it then.
Yeah.
Keep doing it. Why are you not doing it?
Yeah.
Why are you not doing it right now?
Yeah.
Stop looking at Instagram.
Well, that stuff makes you sick. So one of the things, I was listening to Neil
Digital detox.
The author of The Happiness Equation. I was listening to his podcast. He's got a pretty cool podcast called 3 Books. And he just talks to influential people. And he just says, what are your 3 formative books? Like, what are 3 books that you read? Mostly about people want to read books. All the time there's so many books. How do you curate books of value that change people that you might look up to?
I read a lot. Anything like that, I'm always kind of like, I'm like, typically like cynical comic.
Well, one of the things he did was that he suggested this in his podcast. He goes, this is proven to work. He goes, I did it for a week and it's been so much better. He said to go into your settings on your phone, into the accessibility, and turn it to black and white. He goes, there's so much color and stimulants coming from your phone. It's like a slot
I
machine.
didn't even know you could do that.
Yeah, but you can go into your phone. He goes, you don't lose any of the image quality or anything like that. You just mute the colors so your phone's not screaming at you like a slot machine stimulating you all the time, making you addicted. He goes, just that one thing. He goes, you've lost zero functionality of the phone.
A few years ago, Jeff McKay did like a retreat where he like
no noise,
no phones. You can't look at your phone. You can't even talk. You can't. And that's the kind of thing where I'd be like, I don't know if because apparently it's the kind of thing where like literally like half the people like after 2 days just go crazy and like they can't do it. He did for 10 days. And Jeff's a different dude, right? But like, I don't know. I feel like sometimes I wonder if like something like that would really, because I am addicted to my phone. It's a sickness. Like I spend, if I were actually, it's one of the biggest impediments to like me progressing as a human, let alone as a comedian, is this fucking phone. I literally will like, I'll get up in the morning and I'll spend like an hour and a half just looking at Twitter, where I'm like, I don't even realize I've been doing it for that long. Where I'm like, I'll read an article and I'll read it. I'm like, oh, this is something new to be angry about, something new to be angry about, something else to be angry about. I'll write some self-pitying tweet that gets like 1 like, and then I'll just, oh yeah, I better get back to this. Like 3 hours of my life wasted. Like that's all I've done today. You came to pick me up at like 2 o'clock. You know how much I accomplished today? I read an article in the New Yorker and I read a few pages of a book. And other than that, I just looked at my fucking phone for like 4 hours. Like, what is wrong with me?
No, but I do the same thing.
I just want to take a hammer. I think it's like when I dropped a weight on my phone, on my last phone at the gym. It's
Divine
like
intervention.
Subconsciously, it was like the gods said, yes, you need to do this.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm writing a bit.
So
right
fuck
now
it. Who
out
cares?
loud. Yeah.
Well, that's one of the
Better
things.
put that in my notebook.
Do it.
I'm gonna go home and.
Do you do any of the? I've found a better name for it. It was introduced to me as being called pages. But do you do any of those like stream of consciousness dumps?
No.
So I've done this like 4 times in the last few months, which means I'm not doing it every day like I'm supposed to. Every day I get up and I
I know what
it
stream
is.
of consciousness is in terms of like
Well,
literary reference, but
okay, well, I don't. All I know is someone called this exercise that. So if it is the same thing, let me know. But Matt Davis introduced it to me, and he called it pages. And he said that you just sit down for half an hour.
He's a good dude.
He's a great dude, and he's a guy. He's fucking smart as hell. He reads nonstop to the point where he's like he puts notes in the margins of fucking books and stuff like that. But Matt Davis said that you sit down for 30 minutes, and he goes and you just start writing. You don't stop writing, even if you're in your head. You're going, "This is stupid. This is dumb. I don't have anything to say."
Write what you're thinking.
Keep writing. And he goes, and some guys will do that for an hour, 2 hours, all of that, because all of the anxious thoughts in your head, all the distracting thoughts, everything like that.
Well, I mean, I've never done that, like set out to do that, but like I've filled. God, I went through a phase where like I thought I was going to be I want to be a playwright, and I wrote these shitty plays in a notebook, and I've filled notebooks. I've got like dozens of these full, like where I don't even look at them anymore. We're like, hey, here's something I wrote back in 2014 that might have been right. Like that's like I do. I guess in effect, I kind of do that. Right.
But if you do it for like some people journal, and that gets for me when I did that exercise. It was like, because I can't think of just one thing at a time. I've always got 2 things. I'm constantly switching channels in my head. But when I did that for half an hour straight, didn't lift the pen and just kept writing every thought. And when my brain switched gears, I just switched gears with what I was writing. Didn't matter because none of this is important. Yeah. But it was like power washing the inside of my head.
Right.
So, and the whole idea is that when you're done, if you're now like, okay, now I want to write comedy, all those thoughts that you're getting distracted with, when you're trying to write, they're gone. They're already gone. You already got them out of there. So now you can stay with just the bit. You're not like, oh, fuck, I got to go to the mall and get that. No, I did that earlier. All those things came out. Sure. And now I'm just the bit. And now I can spend half an hour, even if it's just half an hour, writing about this joke or the premise. At least that's all that came out of me then. Yeah. And one of the nice things, I was in Montreal, and so I think I did it like 3 days in a row there, and then it's trying to get back to it, like you said, leaving the house. Now that I'm home, there's a million different distractions around me. Sure. So being away and stuck in Starbucks, there's nothing, oh, fuck that. Yeah, I forgot to mail that, or I gotta get that fucking laundry done.
The biggest, I need to I lost my iPod years ago, but like for me, I like to listen to music when I'm writing at the coffee shop, and to do that, I need to bring my phone. It's like otherwise I just leave my phone at home.
Right.
Or I don't know. find another way to listen to music.
I think
just not listen to music.
Put it on airplane mode.
Yeah,
no, because
but then you can't listen to
streaming?
music. Yeah, because I'm streaming Spotify. Yeah. Oh well.
Well, you can find. I know. You'll find
there's
a way.
a way around it.
Turn off iMessage or whatever.
Just take a 50-pound weight and drop it on my phone.
I think you can turn off notifications in the thing. So turn off notifications, but leave your thing.
That doesn't matter. It's not notifications. It's a problem. It's like, I haven't looked at Instagram stories in 5 minutes. I better,
Well, but I guarantee if you put your phone in your backpack, right? You're using Bluetooth headphones or is it plugged in?
No, it's plugged in.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll just get you Bluetooth. There you go. Bluetooth's your answer. Throw it in your backpack, and you have your 30-minute timer. Like my timer's on my phone, but I leave it face down. And I've got my AirPods in, so they'll in there when my 30 minutes is up.
Okay.
But
this really is turning into like how. Yeah.
Well, but here's the thing: they're helping, but it hasn't solved it. Like I said, you're still walking around with that every day. I'm not. Do you know what I mean? Like today, I did writing down steps and things like that, little to-dos for coming up. But it's fun. That's the thing is you can make a list and still do it later. It's like, I made the list. Okay, great, but you're not doing it. I bought this book that's about self-help. Okay, you still have to fucking read it.
Yeah.
I bought this tool, or I've learned this tool now in my life. Are you applying it? No. Like there's so many steps beyond it, but at least I don't know. At least it's that much more than you did before. Did you listen to the episode I did with Rick Curry?
No.
So Rick had said to me, he's like, I asked him, like, how do you write, man? Because the whole idea that you like write for all these shows and you have these deadlines and things like that. I go, it blows my mind. He was just like, you know what? I get up and he's like, I just start moving my fingers on the keys. And he's like, it doesn't even matter. If I get 5 paragraphs that day, he's like, at least that's that much more than I had. I'm not going to bed with a blank page.
Yeah.
Like that was him. He goes, there's lots of times where I got nothing I'm happy with at all. But he's like, but I didn't go to bed with a blank page. Yeah. And I'm going to butcher this quote. But the whole idea is, like he said, it does help to work better to give yourself deadlines. Yeah. Because what is it? Work expands to fill the time given for its completion.
Sure.
I think is the quote. So the whole idea is,
I worked for the public service for like 13 years. I know all about that.
But the whole and
there's 5 minutes of work. You've got 3 weeks to finish it. Like
right,
okay.
Yeah. And I think they even use the students as an example. A student who works hard and gets something done by the deadline, and then the teacher gives them an extension. It's not like, I'm done, so I get to enjoy this. It's like, no, I can go back over it and look. Did I really make this part as strong as I? It's like you're just going to keep working on it longer. Give yourself more time to work. So
it was like that with exams in school, where like I'd be like, no, I don't think I'm done yet. I should probably look at this for another half an hour.
Yeah. That's the whole thing. But if you have an hour to, like, if you have all day to get this gardening done, you're going to take all fucking day to do it.
Yeah.
Right? Or if you have an hour, you're going to go outside and fucking hum it up. Like so I'm trying to give myself little deadlines for things. Rory Gardner had suggested that after all this time of me doing stand-up, he's like, why don't you record an album or something? Just if you're sick of the material, put it on somewhere so you can give it to Sirius, right? We're talking about having a middle,
Oh no, I'm in the same boat.
Income.
I'm in the same boat. Like I've been for 2 or 3 months now. I'm like, okay, you need to record an album. I've never recorded an album.
Neither have I. But it's something that's like, that's on my list. So now I'm like, okay, I have to make a list of all the bits that I think I'm going to put on it and just start working those. I'll even type them up. I've done them thousands of times, but I'll type them up and just, is there anywhere I can strengthen it? I'll record it. And that way I can stop doing them because I don't want to do them anymore.
Right.
But at least I didn't just throw them away because there's an entire country that's never heard them. Yeah. And I can get it on Sirius. Now I can actually start getting income that I don't have to do anything for.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So there's guys that have started long after we did, and every day I hear them on Sirius. So that's big royalty checks coming their way for shit that they've retired. Yeah. So I don't know. It's Rory had just suggested creating a body of work also gives you a sense of accomplishment because, if you're doing it for a long time and there's nothing to show for it, it's like, but we could. I don't know. So that's where I'm at. This podcast and making an album, and I've got a new podcast in the works that's coming up that I'm working with a few different people on to get logos and get intro music and shit like that just to get it started. But the stream of consciousness is something that I try to do now. I've done it successfully a few times this week, so I'm going to try to keep doing it. But it does make it a lot easier, and it goes back to that cyclical thing with the whole. At first I'm like, well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. I'd never sit in the amount of times in my 10 years that I've sat with a piece of paper in front of me and tried to write and nothing comes out because I'm super distracted by my thoughts, my phone, whatever. But after the few times that I've done this stream of consciousness thing, to be able to sit there and actually go, okay, and now I know the bit that I want to work on and I start writing it out. My head is thinking of nothing but that. absolutely fucking fantastic.
It's like your hand becomes like a vessel for your thoughts, where you're just literally like, oh, you're writing out.
Well, yeah, I mean, and I'm still slower to write than I am to think it, but at least on top of all of that, I don't have the, oh, for fuck's sakes, like I just, all of that stuff, I have to call this person, oh, I still have to send an email to that guy. I didn't send my headshots to this person. I have to make sure that I send that, I don't know, fuck. All the thoughts that are distracting if you just sort of try to sit and write. And I think that's why people, I mean, Crystal told me for years to journal, and I was like, I don't want to just write about my day. But the whole idea is that gets it out.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that talk about just having a ritual that does something. And for me, that writing that garbage blurb, whatever, made it easy for me to write about the jokes. The joke is still not formed. I identified immediately with what you said about how you wrote something. You're like, this is a 12-minute bit.
Yeah.
I've done that where I'm like, I wrote 10 minutes and I have a 5-minute spot. I'm like, well, what part takes and this doesn't work without that. And but you're creating something. You're still getting it out. You don't have a blank page at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Sorry if this is coming across self-helpy.
No. It's actually, it's good. I don't know how interesting my complaints about my work ethic will be to your listeners, but
well, you're not suffering alone. Is the point. You're not the only person who's like, hey, I want to do something, and I have it in me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, they've heard me say this exact same shit to them all by myself, saying, I don't know what to do with my life right now.
Oh, yeah.
I'm terrified that if I don't have this, what else am I going to do? And not want to kill myself doing.
I need a new place to live in September. I need a new job. My personal life's a train wreck. Anything else?
Why? No. Anybody else? Anyone else want to write in?
Yeah.
Let us know what's going on.
No, because that's it's funny. Alex always used to say that this because that's another thing. I like this. I'm actually starting my own podcast, and because I feel like I'm missing out if I don't. I'm also
should be called "Don't Jump" with Trevor Thompson.
Well, I thought Trevor therapy costs money, but I don't know. It's kind of been Alex's idea was it would be called "What's Wrong with Trevor This Week" or something like that. And like, yeah, maybe, I don't know.
But there's an audience for it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And even mine has
YouTube channel too. It's Lorenzo's big idea. Is like Lorenzo is like, you should just have a stream of you doing reacting to what's happening. I'm like, okay, I can try. So that's something I'm working on too.
I think part of me thinks that would take away from the authenticity of what you do.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because you're like, if you know people are watching and you can't have I think your initial reaction of things by yourself, and then you take it to the stage later. Like you bring what you had at the time, as opposed to feeling like people are watching. So if I didn't get angry enough, or
I don't know if it's a shortcut or something, but like it's like those YouTube subscribers are what you need. You need shit like that. Like I can bitch and moan about the state of the industry and how like you need to be one of those people who like, oh, if you don't have YouTube followers, then you can't sell. But that's how you get a following. That's how these guys coming this Sunday. Honestly, I can't even remember their names, but because they've got tens, hundreds of thousands or whatever of YouTube subscribers, they're selling out the club for like $50 a pop or something crazy like that. Yeah. Because there's a demand for it because they have a following.
Yeah.
I don't know. So,
but you grow one. Like I know my podcast is fucking boring sometimes, and I've still had people. It's still grows, and I don't know why. I'm grateful for every last one of you listening, but. But at the same time, you're going to find that, like, Jeff McKay is the one who said to me, he's like, don't make something that 1,000 people like, make something that 100 people love. So, because then you're, and it's also hard to try to find something, dude, I've suffered with this in this podcast, is trying to find something that people like. So if I get no feedback and then one person says, I don't like when you do this, immediately I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to do that anymore. Yeah. It's like, yeah, but how do you know that the 100 people that aren't saying anything do like it or whatever?
Sure.
I think that you on a podcast would be great.
How long have we been going?
Are you done? You want to?
No, we're not done. I'm just curious how long we.
Hour 40.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Do you have to be somewhere? Like
No.
I have not. This is the only thing I plan one thing with every day. That's all I have to.
Yeah. It doesn't feel like we've been talking for that long. I guess that's a good thing. Right?
Yeah.
An hour and 40. Wow.
Yeah. Well, I'm having fun.
Yeah. No, I just.
It's
longer than a show. at Absolute Comedy.
Yeah.
Right now, Jason would be like, no, this show's too long.
Yeah, but you got to pay the servers more money for put the bills up. No,
The show is 92 minutes.
no. Like I said, I find what you're going through fascinating. I find, like I said, there's so much of it that I identify with myself. I totally lost my passion for it midway through because I had personal stuff, relationship stuff, and I couldn't see how both could work at the same time. Like when you were talking about your marriage, there was no way that I could see.
Well, that's a whole other episode.
Yeah, but
relationships in comedy and how
But that's what made it harder for me. I couldn't see how they could both work. And I focused on one too hard. I didn't try to have a balance.
Want to date me? I'm out at the comedy club 6 nights a week minimum. But hey, yeah, let's start a life together. Like,
it's tough. It's not impossible, but it's tough. It's tough, and it's almost you have to be invested, and you have to be doing your part on the other end. But I can't say I did that. It's not like I'm like, yeah, that's how it works. I assume there's couples that make it work.
Yeah,
you know, maybe absence makes the heart grow fonder.
They're all lying.
Are they? Yeah, there's a lot of
there are no happy people in this industry. None. Zero.
I've said for years that happiness is the cure to stand up.
Yeah,
you know, happy people let shit go. We're still angry about it.
There's
what the
something
fuck?
to be said for that, probably.
So, if you were to do something like, okay, do you have any? It sounds stupid to ask. That's the thing too. Is the more enlightened you get, like you hear people going like, you know what? It takes a lot of strength not to get into a fight. You're like, what the fuck? And then you learn about it. And you're like, yeah. Like the only person who's getting into a fist fight at a bar is someone who's insecure or has an ego issue. Like a secure person is like, I don't need to start throwing fists because some guy I don't know needed to call me whatever the fuck. Like I don't need that shit. I go, yeah, it does. It does take it takes more strength to not get involved in shit. But do you have any like what's your goal right now? Like you're back in Ottawa. What's the next thing that you want to work towards?
Well, I mean, I guess I kind of alluded to it already, right? But like just
having
make enough like revenue from this from multiple streams, if that means fucking YouTube or podcast or like just building up. I don't want to use the term brand, but just like some
makes sense.
Make it sustainable where it's like, okay, this is what I do, and I mean, I'm not going to get rich from it, but even if I can make a living, there's something resembling a living from this. That's again. I mean, the steps to do that when you're living in a smaller city, like in comparison to Toronto or Vancouver or whatever, is hard. But yeah, that's the goal, I guess. Really, yeah.
Yeah, I think
because I hate working.
I'm not a big fan of it either.
No, I've come to realization. I mean, work like actual job working. I'm just like the last few jobs I've had, I've hated them all and don't want to do it anymore. But I realize I have to.
Right. Well, it's the same here. I've found luckily enough niche stuff that's still close enough to comedy that it doesn't suck to do as much.
Yeah.
But it's funny because when you're doing comedy, you have to drive 4 hours to a gig. It doesn't feel like work. Some people are like, fuck, I can't drive for 4 hours. I hate it.
Well, it depends how much money you're getting, but yeah.
Right. But I'd rather drive 4 hours to Toronto to do an hour-long show than to spend all day in a cubicle or standing, at a counter pouring coffee and dealing with money and you know what I mean?
Like, for sure. No, I can relate.
So that's the funny thing. When people are like, I could never do what you do, I always say, I could never do what you do. Like, you work in the government, I could never do what you do.
Well, it's like going back again to the comedian again, where like he's talking to Orny Adams, about like
how do people live like
the
that?
Glenn Miller story. Yeah. Like they like show up at this house and their family's eating dinner together. It's like, how do people do this?
Yeah, they're standing holding their tubas in the snow, waist deep. How do people live like this? But I get it. Like that's the thing and that's the part that's I think that my crippling paralysis, as you mentioned earlier, the paralysis is. I want to write, but I'm terrified that if I actually do it, I'm going to find out that I'm done and I'm not funny and I've given all I have to give. But here's the thing: is in regular conversation with people and day to day, I'm still making people laugh.
Oh yeah, people like the ideas come.
Yeah,
they always. Like I'm not worried about.
We are funny.
I mean, they're funny ideas that will come. Not all of them are great, but
no. But the thing is, a day to day basis, you've got people laughing, and so it's like, well, if I wasn't funny, then that wouldn't be happening. So it's that whole like the fear of success or whatever that's stopping. So I don't know, maybe we can be each other's sponsors.
Okay.
Just keep each other writing.
Success Anonymous.
Trevor, are you writing? This fucking Twitter cocksucker. Could you fucking believe this guy? It's like
Okay, I'm surprised it took this long for the impression of Trevor to come in.
I don't do one of you. That's what you sound like when you're angry.
Bad. No, that was not bad.
That's fucking God.
Every comedian in Ottawa has an impression.
Do
of
they?
Me. Well, not every, but it's kind of a yeah. Well, I'm pretty easy to impersonate, I guess.
Well, it's just
when I get agitated, I can't. What was it? What did she say? Alcoholic Kermit the Frog is what I sound like.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh no, I don't.
Well, when I do kind of have when I get agitated.
Swiss Chalet.
Kind of like
best.
Hi ho, Kermit the Frog here.
Kronk sounded like Kermit to me.
Yeah.
He's like, another thing.
Yeah,
I'm gonna tell you guys about like.
Yeah. Not Kermit. What? No.
Hi ho, Kermit the Frog here.
Yeah.
I don't know. Either way, it's been done.
Yeah.
I think. I don't know, man. I all I know is I get. It's cool talking with you because I get that. If I did this, like, here's the thing: we're both doing stuff. You're doing notes. You're writing.
I'm writing notes.
Yeah, and I'm making lists that I never get to. How many times are you getting on stage right now? Like a week.
This is a bad week to ask me because right now I'm in a dry. So on average, I would say I don't know 4 times a week.
That's amazing.
But 4 or 5. But this week, it's right now. It's I don't know. I guess.
Well, there's competitions going on everywhere.
Yeah,
so
this
harder.
is a bad time because I didn't get any. I didn't. Yeah, I've got nothing this week at all. Nothing. This is the first time. This is the longest I've gone without anything. I mean, like tonight, I could. The thing is, like, if I really wanted to, I could get on somewhere. Probably some nights, not every night,
right?
But I don't really want to that badly right now. I need to stay in for a few nights because I've been out. This is when I go out to shows, it's really hard for me not to drink and not to I'm trying to not drink as much right now. It's because I've been doing too much of that because it's really easy to fall into, especially when you don't have to get up early in the morning and
right.
I've got some money right now, so it's not have to worry about being broke, but it's so easy to turn into 5-6 pints or whatever.
Right.
And I'm trying to get away from that. So I'm trying to stay out of, I went to Absolute on Tuesday just to hang out. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go home because it's a 5-minute walk from my place. But I'm going to go home before I, start pounding beers.
Yeah. We talked about this earlier.
Hard to get away from.
Well, that's good, man. I wish I could do. First off, I don't have anything new, so I don't want to take stage time on shows if I'm just doing shit that I know works. Yeah. But I
wish everyone followed advice sometimes.
Well, that's one of the things earlier. I was going to bring this up when we were talking about sort of the people who can't get off of the open mic nights and stuff. Is some people will have a bad set. This is going back to self-awareness, right? They'll have a bad set and they'll go, I'm just having fun. And I always think to myself, I'm like, you know what, hobbyists. So there's nothing wrong with being a hobbyist, but when you're a hobbyist, you still want to get better. I don't know why I always choose whittling as the example, but if you're whittling in your garage on your Sundays, you still want to get better at it. You don't just keep, I'm just fucking around.
Golf's a good example.
Okay.
As a game that is so hard to do, but everyone wants to get frustrated because even though it's hard to do, I can do better than this. And
right.
You want to improve.
Well, my only example is people will walk off stage and go, I'm just having fun. There's no reason to own how bad you just did because you're I'm just having fun. It's yeah, but if you're going to take this stage time from somebody else, can you at least try? Hobby or pro, whatever, can you at least try to get better? Because if you're not trying...
Well, that's a difference, between now and old me, because I used to be bad. I used to do that sometimes where I feel I just kind of mail it in, where if something didn't go well, I'd be I'd kind of give up on a set. I never do that anymore. I always give it my all, even if it's 12 people in Carlton Place. And give them a show. Well,
and that's the thing too. I've actually never seen you do so poorly that it's not worthy of the stage time. But I'm saying there's some people who will consistently show up and ruin the show.
You weren't at the movie theater last Wednesday night at that gig.
You did a movie theater gig?
It was
what movie?
It was, well...
Was it one of those ones you opened for the movie? They still do that?
It's so fucking dumb. I did it. I was strictly for the money. It was
of course,
the money
and run.
The money was pretty good for the amount of time.
What was it, if you don't mind me asking?
Stuber, which...
Okay.
I just got offered the gig the day before. It was from Yucks.
Yeah.
In Toronto. And I don't know if this was the last...
You didn't drive to Toronto?
No. It was here. But Yucks in Toronto offered me the gig. And it was Lansdowne, before Stuber.
And you do stand up.
It's
before the
such
show.
a terrible setup. You're destined to fail. Like it's I don't. It's the kind of thing where like basically the only way you could make it work is if you did nothing but crowd work. And I didn't really want to, because these people don't want, like, it's comedy for an audience that's not there to see comedy. They're not ready to see comedy. Plus, they want you to start doing comedy as people were coming into the theater.
Right. But I don't even get what it adds. It's like,
it doesn't add
It's not
anything.
like, hey, it was a fun night and buy a ticket next year.
As opposed to like coming in to like just watch the show, they think this is going to enhance the movie experience, and it doesn't. It's terrible.
Yeah, I can't imagine any scenario where it wouldn't.
And of course, like there's 5 feet away from me, there's somebody I know. I'm like,
oh yeah, that's always shit.
Yeah, and he's never seen me do stand up. That's the thing about it that bothers me.
Oh, so watch me bomb.
That Jean Beliveau quote. I think of like where he's like, I always try because there's somebody there who's never seen me before, and I want to, give them a good impression. Right. I want to put on a show for them.
Fail in that
yeah,
situation.
you're totally set up to fail. That was anyway.
So it's like, watch me.
That was last Wednesday night, and I got a couple laughs, but it was that's an environment where anyway, that was a tangent. But yeah,
I just didn't even realize they still did that. I go to the movies all the time, and I remember seeing them. They used to do it before every movie.
It was like preview. I've never done one before, but it was so it was the premiere of this movie, right? So everybody in the theater got free passes. Nobody paid for it, but it's like comedy in an environment where nobody's are expecting to see comedy is just, it's stupid, it's dumb, don't do it. But I did it for the money.
Yeah,
I guess the people from the movie, it's a Fox movie, and the people from Fox were like, this is going to make this movie better if there's a guy telling jokes as people walking in the movie trying to find a seat. Like, no, it's not.
Yeah, I think Alex did one forever ago.
For Batman, or one of the Batman movies. Yeah, I remember seeing something about that. I've never done one before. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, was it worth it?
Well,
no, I don't mean that judgmentally.
The good thing about it is I didn't even have to do as much time as I was supposed to. I don't know if I get in trouble.
Was it like 10 minutes, 5 minutes?
Well,
15,
it was
20?
supposed to be 15, but I didn't do that much time because they started so late that I had to be done by a certain time. So the guy was like, "Okay, you got to wrap it up." Like, okay, so
more than happy to.
I basically got paid okay money considering the amount of time I did, but.
Well, if they're telling you to wrap it up, you can't argue with them. My contract says. No,
I'm doing so well. I insist upon, but it was actually one of those. So here's the funny thing about time on stage, right? Like I feel like I'm pretty good at gauging like how much time I've done, but like I was supposed to do 15 and it wasn't going that great. And like it felt like I've been up there for 15.
Yeah.
And I went with a friend, like she just tagged along to, I don't know, she was like, yeah, I'm going to come hang out. It's just a friend of mine who's also a comedian, but she's fairly new. We're buddies and we're not fucking or anything with it. Not that it matters. Not that it matters. I didn't even mention her names. I don't know. Anyway, so like she came with me and she was like supposed to light me at 13, right?
Okay.
And I was like, because the guy stopped me. I was supposed to do 15, right? And I was like, how much did I do? Like, because I didn't look at my phone or anything. How much did I do? Like 12 or something. She's like, you did 8. I'm like, what? That was 8 minutes.
Felt way longer.
Felt like half an hour. That was 8 minutes. And that's the difference. But now, like normally in a good set, like a 8-minute set, like an opener spot, like I feel I can't even clear my throat. And I feel like, fuck, I'm just warming up. But that was, and then Saturday night I did a show in Brockville, bar show. Matt Watson's friend, but yeah, I don't know. Have you done
Off
it?
Your Rocker or something like that?
Yeah, Laugh It Off.
Laugh It Off, sorry.
And I was headlining. I closed the show. I did. I was doing 40, like a headline set. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it was going well. Like there weren't that many people there, but they were into it. It was a good show, right?
Did that one feel shorter?
Yeah. And to contrast, like that Wednesday night set where I was supposed to do 15. And I only wound up doing 8 because but they told me I had to stop. So
right,
it's not like I was cheating them, right? But then the contrast that with this show where like I checked my time, like I just looked at my phone. It's where I was like, okay, I've been up here for maybe 20. And it was like 31 minutes already gone. Like, I've been up here 31 minutes. Holy shit! Like, because it's going well. It's a difference when it's going well and it's going poorly. Like how the whole concept of time, right? Like,
and it's not like you didn't cheat them out of anything. Yeah, and it's not like when you're like, all right, guys, that's it for me. They're like, oh,
yeah, like they were like, good, let's watch the movie. It was one of those like where you just I'm gonna get out.
Give us the free movie
because they wanted the guys like. oh, you're sticking around to watch the movie, right? Like, no. It's,
You didn't even stay and watch the movie?
no, I have no interest in seeing that movie. It looks like shit.
I just figured free. Free. I'm like, I'll have a free
Most
movie.
movies now, like even if like that's the thing. Even if I didn't have to pay, I've like, cause it's funny. Going off topic here, but like,
there is no
yesterday. Well, yeah, well, getting away from the self-help angle. Yesterday afternoon, I was really feeling like meh, and I couldn't get anything going. I couldn't focus, and right now I got like a bit of an injury, so I can't even. Normally, going to the gym and working out is like helps me, but like I can't really do that right now either because I'm kind of hurt.
What happened?
And so like, it's a foot thing. It's not gout, but it's I don't know.
No worries.
Because I have a joke anyway. But
okay.
And I was like, I'm gonna go see a movie, like a matinee. I'll just go to the movies, right? And so I like looking through movies in Ottawa on my phone, and I was like, there is not one movie showing right now. And I guess this is me becoming an old man, but like, there's not one movie that I'm even remotely interested in going to see. I'm like, I don't want to see any of this shit. I don't. It's
That's
like
kind of good because now you don't have to spend the money on it.
I guess I don't
You can go home and watch Netflix documentaries.
like yeah, or even like he asked me if I want to go to like Osheaga in a couple weeks on the Friday night.
What is that?
It's an outdoor music festival in Montreal. It's
Okay.
been going on for like I don't know. 10
Yeah, I thought it was one of those things.
I went once.
Coachella.
Yeah, like that, but in Montreal. I went once like 10 years ago. But anyways, like she's like, okay, it's Friday night. You know, because Saturday night I got a gig, so I got to come back. But you want to go Friday night? So I'm like, okay, well, who's playing? So she sent me a list. Actually, I got the text here right now, and it's like
You don't know anybody on it?
Friday night Osheaga. There are 3 names I recognize of like, there's like about 40 artists listed, and the only people I've heard of are the Lumineers, Gucci Mane, and Kurt Vile, and that's it.
And I've heard of one of those.
Yeah, and everyone else, Interpol, I think I've heard of them, but I might be just thinking of the actual.
airport?
No, I might be thinking
Like
of
whatever it is.
Interpol, like the actual International Police Agency.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
not
Yeah,
the
not
band.
airport. Yeah, Interpol.
But like who? Suicide Boys, Jessie Reyes. Okay, no, I think she's Canadian. Fisher, Rosalia, Denzel Curry, Codaline.
Never heard of that stuff.
JPEG Mafia.
There's so many different
Francis and the Lights, Dear Rouge. Okay, no, I've heard of Dear Rouge. Okay, maybe there's
I still have one.
I'm kind of cool.
I still have one. And there's like Ottawa has Escapade.
That's like
electronic
that's
music.
EDM. I don't know anything.
But then it's like, what's his face? Dead Mouse. I'm like, oh, okay, he's I know who that is. And then they're like,
Blues Fest this year.
Tiesto. I'm like, I've heard of.
Even Blues Fest this year. Like I didn't go to Blues Fest at all. I didn't ever. I mean, it's like there were so many nights where I'd be like, who are these people?
Yeah. It was like they had Wu-Tang, and it's like, but they probably had it without Redman and Method Man and the successful ones. So it's like, come see the Skeleton Crew of.
Came.
But I would imagine they probably like I don't know. I was never a Wu-Tang guy anyways.
ODB wasn't there, but
he wasn't there.
Well, he's dead. So
oh, is he? Okay, well that would make sense.
He died like 10 years ago.
They didn't bring out the holograms.
No,
that's the thing though. I've never been a big live music guy. I find
I used to be, but I don't know if it's just I
went to Foo Fighters last year and I enjoyed
that too. I enjoyed it. Yes.
But it's like sometimes when I've been at those, like depending on where you're standing.
Yeah.
First off, I'm old and overweight.
Yeah.
So standing for a long time isn't fun for me.
Right.
The closer
you need
you
to bring
are,
a chair.
all you hear is the
chair in a bag.
But you couldn't bring a chair in a bag to fucking Foo Fighters. We were like 4 or 5 people back from the front.
I have a rant about those chair in a bag people.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. My hatred.
Save it, dude. That should be your podcast. Should be every episode is you complaining about something. Not complaining.
No.
Your reaction. Reaction, I think, is more neutral.
Okay,
you can decide.
I'm not saying we're stopping right now, but like
Can you go to the bathroom or more
I
water?
really need to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Welcome back.
Hi.
Yeah, Trevor and I are discussing just very briefly before we hit the play. Is like how long it should be.
People getting sick? I mean, like.
But here's the thing: if they don't like it, they'll turn it off. And the people who are invested, like I said, I haven't felt like, hey, we got to stop. Not that I'm trying to take more of your time, but just I'm enjoying the conversation. Again, it's the benefit of not having anything to do with your day, per se.
7 hours. We're trying to hit the Guinness and world's longest podcast episode.
It's just, well, like I said, people who like it will listen. People who don't won't. Some people only listen to my interviews. Some people only listen to my individual
solo
episodes.
ones, yeah.
I
But you don't like normally you just do this solo, right? Like I haven't.
yeah, the whole idea is like, and I've played with so many different formats of it. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know what to talk about, so I made a note template for the episodes where it was like,
Right.
I would just write down the days of the week, and like if I was just trying to remember what I did, and I'd put them in there, and then when the episode would come, I would literally, and I hate saying it this way, but I would start just saying, here's what I did on Tuesday, here's what I did on Monday, and it's like boring as fuck. Yeah, literally. Yeah, it's like all I did was just say, and then on this day I did this, and I'm like, I don't know what it's, and it just got so like, so you're just telling me about your week, like exactly. Yeah, and then I took my mom to Costco. I like taking her on Sundays. She's old, and it's the time we get to spend together. So it's just like, so now I'm just like, you know what? I'll get on it, and I go, I'll start talking, whatever comes to mind, whatever thoughts are in my head that day, and then I'll sort of go, what else did I'll look at my calendar and go, is there anything really significant that I did that I thought was interesting? It's like, oh, and this thing pissed me off. Yeah. But that's kind of the episodes, the way they go. But I'd like to think they're more entertaining now. They're shorter. Before it's like, well, dude, I had 2-hour episodes on a week that I did practically nothing. And then I've had episodes where I've openly wept about something. Openly wept.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's just, that's what I was feeling like. And I don't mean like, I didn't have a breakdown, but it was just, yeah, I'd have episodes where you could hear me tearing up, and I'm crying at the time of recording it. But I'm like, what happened was particularly, deep on me. Yeah. Super fascinating stuff. So you got anything coming up that we can plug, get people excited for?
Well, the next Trevor's Pad.
Okay. First Sunday of the month.
First Sunday of every month at Yuck Yucks.
And what is it? Is it a showcase show or
on Elgin Street?
Okay, you can say it. 292 Elgin, 236
Laugh
LAFF.
Yeah, it's well, it's like I book it. It's my own room. I did not ask you to do the next one, I think. So
it's on my calendar. Oh, yeah, okay. I put it in there.
Well, Josh is going to be on it, so come on, check it out.
They don't give a fuck. They just
August. Next show will be August 4th, Sunday, August 4th. I book it, and it's a stand-up show, but like we do like some little sketch things and little
gross
different things as well. Not sketch as in like, but like, so last show, for example, Tavis and I, we did the inaugural Debatingers. It's kind of like we're doing our own homage or ripoff, if you will, of the Debaters, the CBC radio show. So
it's not like they were the first people that ever come up with debating.
No. But I mean, so Dawn hosted, and we're not going to do that every show, but maybe we're going to do it again. Like, I think the goal of that is Tavis and I are going to keep doing that and recording it, and then submit it to actually submit something to them, like to the debaters, because I guess that's how some people get that gig, right? Like they actually, instead of like waiting for them to, the debaters to come to them, they'll pitch them like, here's our idea, but instead of just pitching them, we'll actually say, hey,
they'll write the whole thing.
We actually recorded this already.
Yeah. What do you think?
What do you think?
If you could,
so that's kind of a new.
With all the different kinds of stand-up and everything, like we talked about, YouTubes and podcasts and stand-up and sketch and writing. Mm-hmm. If you could say, let's take away the whole, like, I'm not sure what people would like. Let's just say whatever one you decided to do was, guaranteed to be a success. What would you want to do right now? Do you want to have a lot of pots on the stove, or, do you prefer stand-up? Because like we talked about how it's gone from, this many people to now it's just oversaturated. I think one of the things that I've noticed right now is there's way too many people getting into stand-up because they think it's going to make them a movie star, or it's going to make them a YouTube sensation, or it's going to make them.
That's not really anything new, I guess, right? I mean, in terms of the social media element, it's new, but like the whole idea of like, especially you see in LA, right? Oh, I'm an actor / comedian, where people like will just get into stand-up on the side as like a means to like diversify, another chance to be seen or whatever, right? And then once they you get the flip side of that, where it's like somebody's like, oh, I was on a TV show, now I'm
Rob Schneider's doing
Dustin
it now.
Diamond, John Lovitz, people that weren't stand-ups necessarily, but they're funny people,
and you can tell when they're
Stormy Daniels, apparently. Just going to talk about Trump's weird looking dick, I guess, for 45 minutes. I don't know, but people will pay
His
for it.
balls have the same comb over.
Thank you. In the words of Mark Breslin, right? Like, fame trumps everything.
Oh, I thought you were saying give me that cock.
It's a direct quote of his.
Fame trumps. Yeah, the cream rises to the top. Different.
That's not
meaning. Different meaning entirely.
Yeah, I mean, stand-up is... The freedom of stand-up is something that's part of the appeal of it, right? Like, the freedom to just... Whatever you think is funny and total control over it yourself. You don't have to worry about, like, when you're writing something where you got, there's notes from the network, or there's, you can't say this, or it's like stand-up is like, no, you have that freedom to say whatever the hell you want, right? That's part of the appeal of it. That's definitely my first... Well, yeah,
we don't have the freedom of speech laws that they have in the States.
But I'm not even talking about freedom of speech. I'm talking about just like you can talk about really whatever you want to talk about. There's no parameters as to like you have to talk about this subject or this, whatever you think is funny is funny.
You just have to wear whatever
it's my first love, I guess. I mean, like I would also love to, I enjoy writing. That's why I should do more of it. But like I mean, 2 or 3 years ago, I got this idea for like something I kind of saw as like a Netflix kind of like 10 episode kind of serial thing. I started writing and I worked really hard on it for like a few months. This was like 3 years ago too. And then like I just kind of let it sit, and then I'd like to start working on that again or something like that along those lines too, right? Mm-hmm. Like something kind of episodic or whatever, like a 10 episode series of like because I like writing dialogue. It's like I enjoy doing that, but it's like I haven't really touched it in like 2 years. I showed it to a couple of people and they were like, yeah, there's something there, right? But so I mean that's something I'd like to work on too, right? But I mean,
did you get hit with that same whole like, oh fuck, well, but what if it's not good? Like,
absolutely. That's totally part of probably why I just kind of let it sit for a while, because I just kind of was like, is this any good? I don't know. And that whole like typical everyone, self-doubt, right? Like,
right.
Is this any, is there anything redeeming, worthwhile out of it? And you hear it with the Netflix world we live in, right? There's so much content. And you're like, well, there's so much content, you get lost in the shuffle. But also, there's so much content that's like, God, they're buying so much shit. There's,
well, they're horribly in debt. Like, they're like the real estate bubble that burst. Like,
I've heard that. Like,
they're billions in debt, and they just keep making more content, hoping that they're going to get more subscribers. And it's like, eventually you got to pay what's owed. The bill comes due.
Yeah, you're gonna have to like start. It's like Enron or
and Disney is launching their streaming service. In
everyone's doing it now.
But the thing was, there's a shitload of Disney content on Netflix.
Yeah,
and so all of their contracts, they'll be up and they'll be done. When you think of how many parents just put their kids in front of Netflix, the whole Disney, like the whole children's section is like, I mean, vastly. There's Pepsi and Coke, which is Nickelodeon and Disney on there, and the amount of stuff that Disney just bought Fox, so basically all the Marvel movies come off, all the Star Wars movies come off Netflix, all of the Miramax stuff. So anything you're seeing with like Quentin Tarantino or all of his movies that are on Netflix, those are all coming off, because Disney's not going to say, here, have your streaming, have our stuff on your service, because they're going to put it on theirs and make it exclusive. You lose all the kid content. You lose all of the Fox content. So Family Guy comes off, American Dad, all those Fox on shows, X-Men, all that stuff comes off. There's anyways, whatever it is. But when all that comes off of Netflix, and now people are going, we're going to go with Disney's, Netflix is going to go under. They're going to have to pay their debt. Like, I don't know, whatever.
Going to go under.
Well, if you owe billions of dollars and you just lose half your subscribers to the Disney platform when it comes out, because that's what you're showing your kids during the day, right? Like, well, that's where the kids' shows are. We need that for the kids. So, I don't know. I just think
there's so many streaming services now that I like Amazon Prime, and even like I used to have Crave TV when I had cable.
Crave is good now. Crave is TMN now, the movie network, and HBO is Crave now.
Okay,
it wasn't. It was a separate one.
It shows you how out of the loop I am with this stuff.
And
here you were saying I'm informed.
You are informed. It's not knowing how the TV stuff works. This is this is part of the problem.
I should know this shit.
Why? I didn't know who those bands were, and I don't read Twitter. I'm disconnected from social media. Like I'm on it, but I never post anything because I don't think anything I do is interesting.
Me neither. Yet here I am.
I find this stuff interesting.
No, I mean like on Twitter.
Well, you can also consume it without contributing to it as well. You don't think so? One of the things, just to throw it out there while I'm thinking of it, was that book, The Happiness Equation. I can't recommend that book enough to anybody.
The Happiness what? Sorry?
Equation. The Happiness Equation, at the end of the book, they're talking about like you got to watch out for advice and stuff like that. And cliches are one of the worst because every cliche has something that completely contradicts it and the opposite that makes sense. Like, opposites attract, but birds of a feather. And it was just funny that you were saying like the fame trumps everything. And that's why I immediately went with the cream always rises to the top. There's always a cliche that completely contradicts the other thing. But people give you advice, blah, blah, blah. It's like, there's another one that makes...
I don't. I'm just saying that's a quote that
100%. But that's what I'm saying. That's what he goes, and at the same time, the cream always rises. So like...
That quote is from when Dane Cook years ago was shooting a movie in Vancouver, and he showed up at the Yuck Yucks in Vancouver and like
bumped someone.
Not only bumped someone, but did like basically bumped the headliner. He did so much time. He was supposed. They were like, okay, we can put you on, but you can only do like 10 minutes, right? But then it's kind of like, I forget who the headliner was. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But it's like when he was like at the King, like he was a big deal back then. This was like
Dane?
Like 10 years ago maybe when he was. And
his albums were so huge.
Yeah, and
he hadn't done movies yet.
Yeah, so he wound up doing like 40 minutes and basically bumped the headliner. So there was like a furor about it, like comedy. The comedians were all upset, and Breslin was like, "Hey, man, fame trumps everything." That was his defense.
Yeah. Well,
and people were like,
so Jason did the opposite stupid thing. Was I brought Jeff Ross and Tony Hinchcliffe to the club one time, and Jeff Ross had asked Jason. He goes, "Hey, if I want to come in tomorrow, can I do some time?" And Jason's like, "Yeah, absolutely. If you want to come in." And he goes, "Like, hey, can I do like an hour?" Like that's what Jeff Ross said. And Jason, "I can't have you doing an hour, man. Like the headliner, people here to see him," which is not true at all. The headliner was standing right there, and he goes, "I have no problem. You can bump me. You can do the headline spot tomorrow if you want." Like, yeah. How good would that be for Absolute to have Jeff Ross come in and do an hour there? Yeah. You know what I mean? For free. He just wants to come in and do an hour.
How long ago was this?
4 or 5 years. This was before Tony had completely blown up. Like Tony Hinchcliffe is doing insanely well now.
Yeah.
Do you know who he is?
I know who he is. I don't really...
His podcast, Kill Tony, is huge.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know of him. I don't really know. Yeah.
He's very quick, very sharp. He's on all these TV shows that feature comics. He was on Pete Holmes's Crashing and things like that.
Okay, yeah, I watched the first season of that one.
Yeah. So he's a very big thing. He's open for Rogan, and then he was opening for Jeff Ross and stuff like that. So, but anyways. Jason was asked if, hey, can I come do that? No, I can't have you doing that. The headline or whatever. It's like, so it's, I don't know. I think from a business standpoint, having somebody who's huge coming in and doing the time, it's like the audience is going to go, we got to come back here. You never know who's going to show up and do stuff like that.
I'm just, yeah.
And it's funny that comics would go, well, I would imagine that the headliner that got bumped still got paid. It's not like Breslin gave him the headliner's money.
No, I think they were more just upset about the fact that I guess they shouldn't have expected Dane Cook to follow because like he went up there with the understanding he was only supposed to do like 10 minutes and he wound up doing like 4. But whatever, he's Dane Cook.
Yeah, I've heard Chappelle does that, and I've heard
Chappelle. Well, God, Chappelle did like what did he do? He went up. He did like 7 hours or something.
There was a competition between him and Dane Cook of like, Chappelle wanted the record for the longest thing. The story I heard too was like Dane Cook tried to take it back afterwards. And
to me, that's
and
just,
like ordered pizza for the last 2 audiences.
Just
ego
dick waving. It's just so self-indulgent. Nobody wants to watch anyone do comedy for 7 hours. I don't care how. Yeah,
and people didn't like. Apparently, it was like the LA shows where people come and go. So it's just like I'm just on stage all this time doing it. So people are coming and going. And at one point, he was going to lose the thing because like the last 2 people were like getting up to leave. He's like, "Where are you going?" They're like, "Well, we're hungry." He's like, "I'll order you pizza." So it's like ordered pizza to the club. Now this is hearsay.
I watched a guy walk an entire room.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Can you say his name?
Alan
Was it
Park.
recently?
Alan
Really?
Park. He doesn't...
When?
Oh, this was like... 5... Oh, yeah. Five. Sorry.
You can pull it closer.
5 years ago. It was at Yuck Yucks Ajax. Rest in peace. Doesn't exist anymore. But it was...
it's under renovation indefinitely? like all the rest
Well,
of them?
they opened one in Oshawa. I don't think it's the same owners, but I guess that's that area covered now. I don't know.
I remember when I started comedy, you
Ajax
could go on
is
the
where
Yuck
they
Yucks
used-
website and
yeah.
they'd be under renovation, and they'd be like that for 7 years.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of clubs that are like it. I can't even tell you where there are and aren't because like they've come and gone. There's so many of them, but
Yeah.
like there is one in Oshawa now. But for some reason they used to send me to Ajax all the time when I moved to Toronto. That was almost, I felt like my home club, and I was doing a weekend there. Yeah, I was like 2014. I don't know, and it was Hunter Collins was emceeing. I was middling. Alan Park was a headliner. And he had a bit of a name, I guess, right? Because he was on Air Farce and like, I don't know. Anyway, he went up, and I've never seen a guy deliberately try to alienate a crowd more than like, because it's not like it was one of those shows where like everybody bombed and they hated everybody. It was like the crowd was actually good. They were fine. They were, like it was Ajax, and it was
him specifically.
Ajax was that was a club that was like, it was the suburbs of Toronto, but it's very redneck. Like the parking lot was all like pickup trucks, and it was kind of like almost like you're in a small town, even though you're in like the suburban Toronto area. But
Right.
the crowd was fine. They were a little rough around the edges, right? But so then Alan Park went up as a headliner, and he literally, it's like somebody set him off, and he just went out of his way to be antagonistic towards that, and like it was a sight to behold. He literally walked the entire club, and over 100 people, maybe 140, 150
People were just like,
people.
fuck, this sucks. They started getting,
Yeah.
and did he try to roll with it?
He just kept going. He would not stop, to the point where like when he finished, the last table was getting up and leaving. So Hunter and me and the owner of the club at the time, we were all standing at the back, like with our arms folded, like in awe. We're like, this is almost impressive. I can't believe he's this committed to just antagonizing.
Like, was it like people stand up and go, "Guy, go fuck yourself, get out of here"?
No,
Like,
they weren't heckling him. It wasn't. I mean, there was a bit of heckling at one point.
but what's
then
he doing as he sees people getting up and leaving?
Nothing. It doesn't change.
He's just yelling at a table. People are getting up. It's
but
not
then
even happening.
Then he stopped kind of talking to the crowds, and then the crowd, and he would just. I don't even remember like his material in terms of what he was doing.
Okay, so he wasn't just shitting on that table and people are getting up and leaving, and that's it all at once. He's like shit on them, try to do a joke, and they just keep getting up.
And then the jokes
leaving.
were just not hitting, and then like he just lost the entire crowd. And then he was, it was. I've never
people
seen
getting up and leaving was like catching fire, like embers, and just going, yeah, fuck it, let's get the fuck out.
I've never seen a guy walk an entire club like that. It was really impressive.
And no word of a lie, like no hyperbole. Not a seat was still.
Oh, the entire room was.
The
done.
entire room was.
The
empty.
last table finally gave. It was almost like a contest. See who that could last the longest. Who, in terms of who would be the last to leave. But I remember the last table got up and leave. And we're all like, "Holy shit, he did it! He did it!
He walked room.
an entire club, not a table of 8 people."
Yeah, and not half sold out. Like it was a full room.
Yeah, pretty much.
pretty
Well,
damn
it
full.
wasn't sold like that. Was a big room, like jammed. You could get a lot of people in there, but there were definitely over 100 people in there.
And they just all fuck this. We're
walked
gone.
the entire room. That was impressive.
Do you remember how far into his set ish? Out of 40 minutes.
Oh, by the time the last table left, he was probably at 40 minutes.
Okay.
Like it wasn't like he walked it. It didn't.
They didn't leave
It
it
wasn't.
quarter
No.
after, no.
It's not like he did 5 minutes and walked the entire room, and he
No, of
proceeded
course.
to do 35 minutes.
Well, I assume once they're gone, you can just go.
Once
we done
the
here?
last guy left, I think he finally stopped. I don't know. He's
Because I would say that even if it happened 25 minutes in, I wasn't. There's no part of me that thought he had actually finished his set. I was just like, was it? How far into his set did he walk the whole room? So that's funny. So
it took him a good, like he worked at it. It took him the whole duration of his set. I guess some people were sticking out just out of politeness. I don't know, but it was.
So, but they were gone while he was still up there. It's not like the MC
Yeah.
walked up and like, thank God, and left. It was like, no, he.
By the
walked
time the
everybody.
MC went up, it was like the room was empty. So he didn't even really need to go up, but I think he did. I don't remember.
Everyone's worried about that contractual obligation.
Yeah, it's like
8 minutes getting waved
Yeah.
off. No, I paid for
Like
15.
Hunter, it was Hunter Collins. I remember very well as the host. It's like, he's like, do I need to go up here still? There's no crowd left. Do I still need to say, hey, tip your servers? If there's nobody
The
left in the
servers had
audience.
walked too.
Yeah, they've all gone home too.
Well,
for the
we're not
night.
getting. They're all chasing
Yeah.
their bills out the front door.
Yeah, really.
Well, that's I won't.
And on that note,
I was gonna say. Well, I don't want to keep you handcuffed to this. I'm having a good time with the
no, I'm having a
conversation,
good time. I just I'm doing intermittent fasting, and I'm kind of at the point now
Getting
where
hungry?
I should probably eat something. I don't know.
Yeah, I can feed you if you want. I mean, not during the podcast. We'll end the podcast and then I can feed you.
Okay.
You want to do that?
All right. Sure.
Okay.
What do you got?
Pierogies.
I like pierogies.
Do you like pierogies? I'll fry up some fucking. Hey, you know, you
all right.
Time.
Stick around for the pierogi podcast, guys.
I don't even know what kind of pierogies there are. I mean, I have other options. We can pick. We can go through the fridge.
Sure. I wasn't angling for a free meal or anything.
No, but you gave me your time. I can feed you.
Okay.
Well, I appreciate you doing this. Trevor's Pad's a thing. Your
Trevor's
podcast
Pad. Yes.
Is going to be a thing.
It's going to be a thing. The titles to be determined, but I'm gonna be on YouTube ranting about things.
You are gonna do that?
Up. Yeah. Well, Lorenzo's. It was his idea, and I'm like, yeah, I can. I think it's a good idea. I need any way to like content, right? It's all about content.
Well, I think the most important thing that I'm learning is that people connect more with honesty. So if you're doing, it's like a joke. If you're pandering because you think this is what people want to see, I'm not suggesting that you are, but I'm just saying that is something that's part of the creating a podcast or YouTube channel or whatever it is.
No, if nothing, I am authentic. I am very authentic.
And I wouldn't argue that.
I'm very authentic.
I just know if during the process, if at any point you're like, yeah, I don't know what people want. Just do what you want to do, and you'll draw your crowd.
So, apparently, it's a big thing now. Like, it's like people on YouTube are like making a living. It's crazy. But it's like just with reaction, where it's like it's all they do. They get subscribers who like want to see, because there was one other comedian. It was like about a year ago. It was Jeff Elliott who said to me, like, from Toronto. He was like, I would pay money to watch you just rant about things, like reacting to like things that are happening. It was him that like said it initially, and then Lorenzo was like the one who was like, yeah, I think this is something you should do. Like, he's the one setting it up for me, like where there's a camera at my place and I'm just like, something that's happening. And it has to be organic. I'm not going to be like Lewis Black, where I'm going to be like, I'm really angry about this, when he's obviously really not. It's contrived. Like, I don't want it to be like that. I want it to be stuff that, and it wouldn't necessarily just be stuff that I'm angry about per se, right? It'd be stuff that's
actual
like, well, here's something like, okay, what, like, here's my, I don't know. It's, the possibilities are limitless, right?
Right, and as long as you're getting the authentic reaction.
This has been good for me. I feel actually like inspired now. It's good. It's like the Josh Williams self-help podcast.
I take no credit.
It's good.
All I do is parrot
Let's eat some pierogies. Go do some writing.
Okay.
All right.
You better. Yeah. Can you do the stream of consciousness? Just commit to doing 30 minutes of writing, no matter whether it's good or bad. Who gives a fuck?
Okay. We'll do.
In the words of Rick Curry, you won't have the empty page at the end of the day. Yeah. I do appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, thanks.
For coming in and chatting with me.
Bro, thanks.
All
Trevor's
right.
Pad.
Trevor's
August
Pad
4th.
on Sundays.
Josh's going to be on it. Thanks.
I will keep following up with Trevor, so when he has his podcast out and his YouTube channel, all that, I'm gonna give it a plug.
Okay. Do that.
I will.
Thanks. Okay.
Talk soon.